On the third day after Shinseo's kidnapping, I helped him escape from the mountains, yet his beloved first love ended up sentenced to 7 years in prison for the kidnapping charges. The day Chin-ku was imprisoned, Shinseo ruined my birthday celebration. Why did you make me escape? Aik was just throwing a tantrum. She never meant to hurt me. Shinseo screamed at me hysterically, oblivious that Chin-ku would actually lay hands on him. I overheard the threat if the Shin family didn't deliver the money soon, they'd break one of his legs. When I told him the truth, Shinseo stubbornly insisted I was lying. He idolizes Chin-ku as the moon of his world, the snow in his heart, yet treats me and the Song family as mere stepping stones for his success. Over 7 years, Shinseo built the Shin Empire into prominence with the Song family's backing. At the pinnacle of his success, he dragged me, his wife, to the shoreline on the very day Chin-ku was released from prison. Song Qingyao, your atonement ends only in death. I lost consciousness in the seawater, only to wake on the day Shinseo himself was taken captive. This time, I watched Shinseo being taken away in bonds, but didn't follow. Perhaps dying in the mountains was the fate Shinseo deserved. I'd loved Shinseo for years. Though many claimed he only approached me for personal gain, yet I still craved the tenderness he showed me. My obsession ran deep, so when I was dragged to the shore and recognized Shinseo, my husband of 6 years, as my captor, I nearly shattered. Why would you do this to me? Shinseo flicked his cigarette to the ground and crushed it underfoot. His gaze fell upon my tear-streaked face. Yet his eyes remained unsettlingly calm, even his brows carried only the faintest trace of irritation. Shinseo's whisper carried over the sea breeze, crystal clear in my ears. For 7 years, he said, I've tried to visit Aik, but she refuses to see me every time. She hates me. I went to see her again yesterday, and this time she finally agreed to meet me. I thought Aik was willing to forgive me, but she told me she's fallen ill in prison and doesn't have long to live. Song Qingyao. This is all your fault. You should atone with your life, while I'll stay by Aik's side for whatever time she has left. Chinka. I never thought I'd hear that name again, let alone imagine my husband of 6 years would try to kill me because of her. Staring at the cold-eyed man before me, I realized with horror how terribly wrong I'd been to keep choosing him. I shouldn't have risked my life to save him from those mountains 7 years ago. I shouldn't have believed he could love me after Chinka went to prison, but time ran out for regrets. At Shinseo's signal, his men shoved me off the cliff into the raging sea, bound hand and foot. I kept sinking into the sea, watching the sunlight dance on the waves until I finally suffocated and lost consciousness. The suffocating sensation lingered unbearably, and through the agony, I managed to open my eyes again. No seawater, just a warm, dry cafe. Miss, are you all right? The waitress delivering coffee noticed my pale complexion and the cold sweat beading on my forehead, immediately asking if I felt unwell and needed an ambulance. I shook my head without speaking, gulping down air like a drowning man. Only when my color returned did the waitress set down the coffee and leave. I must have died once. The lingering dread clinging to my heart served as a grim reminder of the death I'd experienced. Yet I was reborn again. My eyes darted around the unfamiliar surroundings. And there, just beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows, stood Shinseo. He was on a call, his face lit with undisguised delight. A taxi pulled up to the curb, and out stepped none other than Chin-ku. The beautiful girl with long black curls waved at Shinseo, phone in hand. Caught off guard, Shinseo bounded over with uncontainable glee. 10 steps, 5, 3. Only when Shinseo got into that green cab and the door shut did I dare exhale deeply. My body trembled with almost manic excitement as I quickly settled the bill and rushed home. Since Shinseo resents me for harming Chin-ku and occupying his wife's position, this lifetime I'll let him bravely pursue his true love. By evening, news came from the Shin household. Shinseo had been kidnapped. Seo's been kidnapped. The kidnappers are demanding 10 million for his release, or else. My mother pulled me into her arms, leaving the thread unfinished. Don't worry, Yao Yao. The Shin family has already alerted the police and hired investigators. Seo will be fine. Mom gently rubbed my back to comfort me, knowing exactly how I felt about Shinseo and fearing I'd act recklessly out of concern. I buried my face in my mother's arms, forcing out a few crocodile tears. Mom, I'm sure brother Seo will be just fine. What could possibly happen to Shinseo? At worst he'll lose a leg. Nothing compared to the heartbreak he's about to endure. In my past life. When I learned Chin-ku had arranged to meet Shinseo, I staked out that coffee shop. My stomach churned with jealousy when I saw Shinseo leaving with Chin-ku, and I ended up tailing them. It wasn't until their car veered off into a remote small town that I realized something was wrong. Fong Seo was dragged into the mountains by Chin-ku and his accomplices. After alerting the police, I spent a full day trekking deep into the woods to locate their hideout. I planned to wait for the police, but accidentally overheard the kidnappers' conversation. "Do you really think the Shin family can cough up 10 million for his ransom? Rumor has it the old mansion's got plenty of illegitimate sons stashed away. We'll find out tomorrow when the exchange happens. No money, no hostage, that's the deal. Are we really just leaving Ado alone to guard him tomorrow? What if something goes wrong, with him tied up this tight? What could possibly go wrong?" Just as the two kidnappers were deep in conversation, Chin Ku arrived with a tall, handsome man by her side. Boss's lady." Having overheard their earlier remarks, Chin Ku said coldly, "Break one of his legs before we leave tomorrow. That'll keep him out of trouble. Break his leg. Won't that hurt your feelings?" The handsome man ran his fingers through Chin Ku's curls with an amused chuckle. "I went through the trouble of kidnapping someone for you, and this is how you tease me?" Despite her pouting protest, Chin Ku melted into his embrace, her coquettish demeanor a stark contrast to her earlier aloofness. Jin, once we get the money from the Shin family, let's start fresh somewhere new." "Okay, alright." The man pressed a tender kiss to Chin Ku's lips before they descended the mountain together. That night, I fought off sleep and crouched until my legs went numb, finally spotting a kidnapper stepping out to relieve himself. I grabbed the sharp stone I'd prepared earlier and smashed it against the kidnapper's skull. I didn't stop until he lay unconscious, blood pooling around his head. I retrieved the blood-stained knife from his body, circled around to the cabin's rear window, and handed the crimson blade to Shinseo under his astonished gaze. Around 3 a.m., when the mountain forest lay in complete silence, Shinseo and I fled through the woods like our lives depended on it. I thought I'd saved him, only to realize I'd doomed myself. This time, I won't take that gamble again, nor will I hand Shinseo the blade that could turn against me. The days dragged on painfully slow. My parents tried comforting me while worrying about the Shin family's plight. I could only weep in public, yet offered no leads to the police, nor agreed to the Song family covering the Shin's financial obligations. "Your Aunt Shin came to see me. The family fortune has dwindled over these years. Their company's in dire straits. 10 million is truly beyond." My parents' words carried a tentative tone, though already inclined to agree. Consulting me now would make the Shin parents favor me more later. The Shin family could never be too poor to afford 10 million. It's simply that Shin's parents assumed someone else would foot the bill and made excuses. But Shinseo is their son. Why should his safety concern our Song family? "Mom, Dad, we can't pay this money for the Shins. Brother Seo just lost his temper with me for meddling in his relationship with Chin Ku. If I interfere again now, he'll think I'm using favors to manipulate him." True, Seo and I had a huge fight recently. I'd urged him again to stay away from Chin Ku, seeing she didn't truly love him, yet he remains convinced their affection is mutual. After our fight, Shinseo never came to see me again, with my birthday just a week away. He kept accompanying Chin Ku instead, even giving her the gift he'd originally promised me. I don't want Brother Seo to misunderstand me again. I cried so bitterly that my parents had no choice but to turn down the Shin family. The Shin's expressions darkened when they learned our Song family wouldn't provide financial support. Seo's mother in particular shot me a resentful glare upon realizing this was my decision. After all, in her eyes, I'm still that Song Qingyao who'd go to any lengths to please her for Shinseo's sake. She snorted threateningly. "This kidnapping incident has shown me some people's true colors. I'll be much more discerning when choosing a wife for our Seo from now on." My parents visibly bristled at her words, but I remained unfazed. Before heading upstairs, I simply clarified that there was nothing between Shinseo and me. "Auntie, I know Brother Seo's heart belongs to someone else. I've let go of my feelings for him, and I truly hope he can be with the person he loves after being rescued. By the way, Auntie and Uncle should have someone announce your visits to the Song residence from now on. Our doors aren't open to just anyone at any time." How dare you speak to your elders like that, you insolent girl, Mrs. Shinseo was hopping mad, ready to say more when my parents gestured for them to leave. Their politeness toward the Shins had only ever been because their daughter fancied the Shin boy. The Shin family did eventually cough up 10 million, but before a cent could be spent, Shinseo was found. 3 hours before the scheduled exchange, surveillance officers spotted the suspects and tracked their trail deep into the mountains. Nearly all of Shinseo's kidnappers were captured, except for Chin Ku and another man who managed to escape. Shinseo's condition was worse than I'd imagined, his body covered in blunt force trauma, his right Achilles tendon severed, and one eye gouged out. The captors confessed that when severing Shin's tendon, he kept screaming at Chin Ku asking if she'd ever loved him. The obvious no only enraged his tormentors, who then inflicted far worse damage than originally planned. By the time police subdued the kidnappers and found Seo Shin in the cabin, he'd already passed out from the pain. Yao Yao. Would you like to visit Seo? Seo Shin still hadn't regained consciousness at the hospital, though her parents now saw the Shin family's true colors. They'd watched Seo grow up. Upon hearing the news, they rushed to the hospital immediately. Such a fine young soul. Why did this have to happen to them? My mother wears her heart on her sleeve. Seeing Shin Seo's tragic state in this life already brought her to tears. I can't imagine how unbearable her grief must have been in our past life when she learned of my death. Yao Yao, there are some things your father needs to make clear to you. While my father sympathized with Shin Seo's plight, he maintained a more rational perspective. You know, I've never approved of your relationship with Seo. Now with this incident, he's simply not the right person for you. I just want you to think about your future, Dad. I honestly don't have feelings for Shin Seo anymore. After he repeatedly chose to hurt me, there's nothing left between us. My father thought I was referring to that big fight I had with Seo recently. Seeing how composed I remained, even when hearing about Seo's hospitalization and coma, the deep furrow between his brows gradually relaxed. Just let it go. Your mother and I will visit the hospital. You've been exhausted lately. Stay home and get some proper rest. Perhaps worried I'd soften upon seeing Shin Seo at the hospital. Dad hastily insisted I remain at home. I agreed immediately. Staying clear of the Shin family drama suited me just fine, but my peace didn't last long before they came knocking at my door. 6. Shin Seo regained consciousness. Qing Yao, Seo wants to see you. Seo's mother showed up at my birthday party, her eyes bloodshot with dark circles underneath. Looking far more haggard than before. After all, no matter how many illegitimate children the Shin family might have, Seo was her only son. I sighed as I looked at the birthday party my parents had so carefully prepared, thinking this time I might actually enjoy a proper celebration. Just like in our past life, Shin Seo showed up out of nowhere again. He'd already torn up the invitations I painstakingly prepared, yet still came to torment me for Qing Ku's sake. Song Qing Yao, you've ruined Aku. Aku explained everything to me. She never meant to hurt me, she was just afraid my parents wouldn't approve and we'd be forced apart. That's why she came up with this foolish plan, wanting to take the money and start a new life elsewhere with me. If you hadn't arrogantly meddled where you didn't belong, Aku and I would be together now. Your petty jealousy destroyed her. Love is blind. And I wasn't the only one blinded. Shin Seo was equally smitten by Qing Ku's charms. It was clearly the Shin family who opposed their relationship and hired top lawyers to get Qing Ku convicted, yet in the end, he only accused me of jealousy. After defending Qing Ku, Shin Seo simply walked away, leaving me alone to endure the guests' mockery. Foolishly, even in my past life, I wasn't wise enough, hurt by Shin Seo yet still forgiving him, only realizing his true nature when he cost me my life. Qing Yao, I'm begging you as your aunt, please go see Seo. What better birthday surprise than witnessing Shin Seo's miserable state on my special day. The hospital air reeked of antiseptic as I fought back nausea and pushed open the ward door. Before I could step inside, a medicine bottle shattered at my feet. The splashing medicine and glass shards barely missed my toes. The sickbed had stripped Shin Seo of his usual gentleness, leaving behind a morbid gloom. Those hate-filled eyes only softened slightly upon recognizing me, tinged with sudden remorse. Yao Yao, my apologies. I mistook you for the nurse changing my I forced a faint smile. Unoffended, as I approached Shin Seo, he grew visibly uneasy. He struggled with the bedsheet, trying in vain to cover his injured leg, but his wound hadn't healed. All his efforts proved futile. I gently helped Shin Seo lie down and tucked him in. When I looked up at Shin Seo again, one eye was bandaged while the other was bloodshot. Yao Yao, are you avoiding me because you're still upset about what happened before? Normally I'd be the first to fuss over Shin Seo. But when he lay severely injured in the hospital without me showing up, he assumed I was still holding a grudge over our pre-kidnapping argument. Yao Yao, I regret everything. I should have listened to you and stayed away from Qing Ku from the start. She's nothing but a liar. She never loved me. I did warn Shin Seo repeatedly to stay away from Qing Ku, but every time we ended up arguing about it. Qing Ku appeared suddenly in our lives, beautiful, gentle. The perfect embodiment of everything Shin Seo adored. Looking back now, they must have had their eyes on Shin Seo for a long time. Yao Yao, will you ever forgive me? A nervous flush crept across Shin Seo's sickly pale face. His remaining eye held guilt and remorse, but something far more calculating lurked beneath. In his current state, Shin Seo needed the Song family's backing to protect what was rightfully his within the Shin household. Qing Ku weaponized Shin Seo's love to wound him. And now he seeks to exploit my affection to manipulate the Song family. Among us, love has become nothing but a blade. Brother Seo, where's my present? My question caught Seo off guard. It took him several seconds to realize it was my birthday today. I'm sorry Yao Yao. I haven't had time to prepare anything. Lying again. For the longest time, Shen Seo seemed to make a habit of lying to me. Before meeting Chinka, he swore he loved me, only to later claim I was just like a sister. At our wedding, he promised a lifetime of devotion, yet 6 years of marriage brought nothing but cold indifference, culminating in him pushing me into the ocean's depths to drown. And now this, jewelry he'd bought a month ago, my favorite pieces. While claiming he had nothing prepared, the lustrous pearl necklace complemented the girl's slender, porcelain neck perfectly, but Chinka had no fondness for pearls, or perhaps she simply disliked the giver. After putting on her act in front of Shen Seo, she promptly sold the necklace. It's alright, Seo, I'm not angry with you, but I've thought carefully about what you said. I must have mistaken my childhood affection and dependence on you for love. We'll always remain the friends who grew up together. My words drained all color from Shen Seo's face. His momentary calm shattered instantly. He opened his mouth to speak, but I cut him off. Brother Seo, I'll fetch the nurse to change your dressing. The 4 bag had run dry, and the replacement bottle had just been shattered. Ignoring Shen Seo's pleading gaze, I walked out of the ward, having spent too long in his presence. An overwhelming disgust churned within me. I needed fresh air before I ended up locked away too. 7. I strolled leisurely down the hospital corridor, pondering where Chinka could have fled. According to the officer in charge, the man escorting Chinka took a bullet during their escape. Though the exact wound location wasn't clear, police had set up surveillance at all medical facilities along their suspected escape route. It wouldn't be long before we tracked down Chinka and that man. Lost in thought, I suddenly heard a shrill argument coming from around the corner. Shen Seo's parents, with Seo in this state, as his father. You're not even concerned about your own son. Instead, you're scheming to bring those disgraceful matters into the Shen family. I've turned a blind eye to your reckless behavior in private, but if you dare to give away what rightfully belongs to Seo, forget about the joint projects between the Shen family and my parents' house. Let's see who'll keep your pathetic company afloat then. Shen Jifeng's brows knitted tightly. When one son proved useless, he simply switched to another, a choice he believed was justified. Yet the company continued to decline under his leadership, forcing him to rely on his in-laws' support. To make matters worse, his wife was an impossible woman to deal with. In the end, Shen Jifeng could only sigh and suppress. For now, his thoughts of changing the family heir. With everything that's happened, I'm worried Seo's health might give out. The only reason I want to retire early is to come home sooner and spend more time with you and our child. Who could possibly challenge Seo for the Shen family fortune? He's our only son after all. Fang Yun didn't bite his excuses and simply warned her husband once more, not wanting a direct confrontation with the Shen couple. I took a detour that added extra minutes to my walk to the nurse's station. Just as I was about to speak, Shen Seo's room number flashed on the nurse station's call display. The nurses seemed to have received some alert too. A flood of staff rushed toward the room I'd just left. I trailed behind the crowd, watching the once quiet ward erupt into chaos as 2 officers dragged out a disheveled woman in nurse scrubs, wild-haired, face contorted. It was Chinka. Chinka's hands were smeared with blood, her body writhing in agony, yet she kept laughing like a madwoman. Shen Seo, you'll pay for Jin's life with your own. Every last one of you Shens deserves to die. No one expected that bullet to be fatal. The man died on the run, sacrificing himself to conceal their trail and buy Chinka a chance to escape. Even more shocking was Chinka abandoning his escape, disguising himself and doubling back to the hospital. Chinka was taken away. The Shen family would never let her off the hook. Doctors and nurses rushed about the hospital room, desperately working to stop the bleeding. I stole a glance. The dagger had plunged into Shen Seo's chest, staining his blue and white hospital gown crimson. Shen Seo's deathly pale face stood in stark contrast to the vivid red, his stillness suggesting he might already be gone. Shen Seo was rushed into the operating room for emergency treatment. As Shen Seo's mother, Fang Yun wept near collapse outside the OR, while her husband stood coldly beside her, his expression numb and almost indifferent, even more relaxed than during their earlier argument. After the prolonged surgery, Shen Seo's life was saved, but he fell into a deep coma. If Mr. Shen doesn't wake within 2 weeks, the chances of recovery become slim. The doctor carefully chose the word slim, but in reality, there was no hope. Shen Seo's mother had always been a strong-willed woman, but this devastating news nearly broke her. She kept vigil at the hospital every day, 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, 1 year. Nearly everyone believed Shinseyo would never wake again, destined to remain in that hospital bed until his final breath. I thought so too. Which is why when I saw Shinseyo at my own engagement party, I nearly mistook him for a ghost. 8. In the 3rd year of Shinseyo's coma, I got engaged. My fiancé wasn't from Jincheng's wealthy elite, but someone I genuinely loved. Peiyu ran a dessert shop that I stumbled into once, and instantly fell for its delicate sweetness. Peiyu always adorns his exquisite desserts with fresh flowers, from orange jasmine to astilbe, and eventually crimson roses. Staring at the oversized blueberry mousse and the dewdrop-kissed red rose on my plate, I couldn't help glancing toward Peiyu standing nearby. When our eyes met, Peiyu made no attempt to conceal the tenderness in his gaze. He stiffened slightly, trying to maintain composure, but a telltale blush soon spread across his fair, handsome features. Unlike Shinseyo's pretense, gentleness was Peiyu's true nature. Peiyu's proactive courtship and my lack of resistance sparked our romance. Later, I discovered those floral arrangements on the dining table were hand-picked daily by him at Tianjin's finest florist before opening his shop. If I failed to show up and the flowers wilted, he'd make another trip to replace them. Those blossoms were his silent love language, his patient vigil since dawn. 9. Our engagement banquet with Peiyu was packed with guests, many of whom knew about my past with Shinseyo. So when Shinseyo showed up, the crowd erupted in murmurs. They whispered among themselves, speculating when he'd woken up and why he'd come today. Shinseyo appeared still wearing his blue and white hospital gown, as if he'd just bolted from the medical ward. Qingyao, you're getting engaged. Shinseyo's voice was hoarse, his gaze burning into me. Peiyu beside me gently squeezed my hand and stepped in front of me. May I ask what business you have with my fiancé? Peiyu was uncharacteristically short-tempered. His gaze locked on Shinseyo with unshakable wariness. Your fiancé. Shinseyo's emotions flared violently as he grabbed Peiyu by the collar, fist raised. Qingyao is my wife. Shinseyo's furious punch was effortlessly caught by Peiyu, having spent 3 years bedridden. Despite round-the-clock professional care, his body had become far frailier than before. With a crippled leg and injured eye, Peiyu barely needed to exert any force before Shinseyo collapsed onto the ground. Seeing her son fall, Fan Yun finally rushed out from where she'd been hiding in the crowd. When she tried to help him up, Shinseyo violently shoved her away. The crowd's murmurs grew louder. No one had expected Shinseyo to actually lose his mind over love today. They'd all witnessed how devoted I'd once been to him. Nowadays, many spectators are speculating whether I've taken back my old flame and abandoned the new one. Amidst the crowd's clamor, I stepped out from behind Peiyu. Shinseyo's gaze instantly locked onto me, desperately searching for any emotion beyond indifference on my face. Even pity would suffice. Shinseyo, you must still be disoriented from waking up. We're nothing more than childhood neighbors. There's never been anything between us. My resolute voice rang out clearly, reaching every ear in the room. Qingyao, we truly are husband and wife. We were married. Shinseyo seemed on the verge of breaking down, but I cut off whatever he was about to say. Thank you all for attending my engagement banquet with Peiyu today. There's one final ceremony we'd like you to witness. I took out the ring I'd prepared in advance and firmly slid it onto Peiyu's middle finger. Far from being upset, Peiyu was beaming with joy. Peiyu carefully retrieved the engagement ring from his pocket, gently slipped it onto my finger, then gazed at me intently, his eyes brimming with adoration. Finally, Peiyu pressed a kiss to my lips and announced happily, Yao Yao and I will be married in 3 months. We'd love for everyone to come celebrate with us. With that, Peiyu tried to pull me home. Yao Yao, I made an engagement cake at home, a new flavor just for you to taste. Just as Peiyu and I were about to get in the car, Shinseyo, who had somehow caught up, stopped us. Qingyao, I need to talk to you. Alone, I agreed. Shinseyo and I walked about 10 paces away from the car. Let's talk here. I don't want Peiyu to worry about me. I turned back and saw Peiyu watching me. A flicker of embarrassment crossed Shinseyo's face. Qingyao, you may not believe it, but we've been married for 6 years. You're my beloved wife. Beloved, you're the first man to call the wife he personally threw into the ocean beloved. Shinseyo, who had been about to explain further, froze in place. You drowned me to be reborn. And you, how did you die? That's why I agreed to talk with Shinseyo. If he'd lived peacefully in his past life, he wouldn't be standing here today. Qinke lied to me. It wasn't her who was terminally ill, it was Nian Jin. With his extended sentence, Nian Jin will die in prison without proper treatment. Qinke begged me to save him, but I refused, so he lured me to the rooftop. But Qingyao, my love for you is real. I was just too obsessed with believing every feeling I had for you was hatred. The moment I gave the order, I regretted it. I love you. I wanted to bring you back. But you were gone, nowhere to be found. Shinseyo wept uncontrollably. It was the first time I'd heard him say I love you, just as nauseating as I'd expected. You love me. What about Chinku? To love two people at once. Shinseyo, you're truly remarkable. If someone keeps getting hurt by the same person, she might be kind, foolish, or weak. But the other one, pure evil. Everything happening to you now is exactly what you deserve. I won't be your pawn anymore. It's not manipulation. Qingyao, I've genuinely fallen for you. Shinseyo must be truly out of his mind. I can't be bothered to waste words on him. The cake's frosting will collapse if we delay any longer. 10. I thought after our last conversation, when Shinseyo learned about my past life memories, he'd finally stop pestering me, but to my surprise, he's clung to Peiyu and me like some stubborn adhesive plaster. Qingyao, no matter what happens, I'll never let go in this lifetime. You were my wife before, and you always will be. Qingyao, after all these years of your affection, you wouldn't just give up on me, would you? You're still holding a grudge, that's all. Qingyao, you can't marry anyone else. I'm the one who's meant to marry you. Could you find it in your heart to forgive me one more time? After Peiyu's shop got vandalized, Shinseyo showed up in front of me and spewed all this disgusting nonsense. Peiyu was fuming and about to throw hands, but I stepped between them. Shinseyo's face lit up with smug delight. He thought I was protecting him, never realizing I was actually shielding Peiyu's precious face. Hold your punches. If we bruise that face, how are we supposed to take wedding photos tomorrow? Peiyu always heeded my words. His clenched fist slowly uncurled and dropped to his side. But here, this is where Peiyu and I met, fell in love, and built our life together. That's exactly why Shinseyo wants to tear it all down. I'll always cherish every moment with you. As for this place, let's wait until after we're married, then I'll help you redecorate it together. Alright. Peiyu let out a small, wounded sound before nuzzling into my arms like a dejected golden retriever. I soothingly patted Peiyu's fluffy head, but when my eyes met Shinseyo's, my face twisted with undisguised irritation and disgust. The distance in your attitude pierced Shinseyo's heart like an ice dagger. Shinseyo, you claim to have plunged into that sea, then you must know the helplessness and suffocation of drowning in mine. I'll never forget that agony, and I'll never stop hating you. My hatred for Shinseyo runs so deep that even after 6 years of accumulated grievances, I refuse to vent them at him now. Those were the clearest words I could muster. Any more conversation with him would turn my stomach. Heaven gave me a second chance not to repeat past mistakes. Besides, Shinseyo was never husband material in my eyes. Just a despicable murderer. 11. Shinseyo never showed his face again after that day, not for lack of trying. The Shin family had him completely shackled. The Song family snatched Shin's biggest contract, with their business already declining. This deal was Shin Group's lifeline, but the terms Song offered were beyond Shin's reach. Meanwhile, another major incident struck the Shin family. Shin Jifeng became paralyzed. The lifelong scoundrel was rushing to meet his mistress when an out-of-control truck plowed straight into him. Whether accident or foul play, nobody cared. After stabilizing his condition, doctors suggested sending Shin abroad for better treatment. Fang Yin took one look at her drooling husband who could only roll his eyes in the hospital bed, and refused. My husband's ancestral legacy is here. The Shin family roots are here. He's going nowhere. Perhaps only at this moment did those two people outside the operating room finally understand each other's feelings. The day before the wedding, I made time to visit the prison. Qin Ku, that once beautiful girl, was now emaciated beyond recognition. The exposed skin on her hands still bore unhealed scars, likely Fang Yin's handiwork. In my past life, I'd resented Qin Ku somewhat. I'd been angry that my decade-long bond with Shinseyo couldn't compare to some girl who appeared out of nowhere. But I'd forgotten, Shinseyo had walked toward Qin Ku step by step himself. From beginning to end, Qin Ku never truly did anything to hurt me. I know prison life's been hard on you. Let me help. A wave of shame washed over me. For years I'd harbored this inexplicable resentment toward Qin Ku, blaming her for my misfortunes. Only now, having let go of that grudge, could I see she was just another victim of cruel fate. Qin Ku seemed taken aback by my offer, but managed a faint smile as she declined. Thank you, but please don't trouble yourself. Could you just tell me what day it is today? The 9th day of the 6th month. Around this same time 3 years ago, she and Yanjin's crew kidnapped Shinseyo. That was the moment our fates diverged at this crossroads. Soon now, Miss Song, may I ask for one more favor? Go on. Ajin rests in the second small town beyond those mountains. There's an orphanage there. I built his grave on the little slope beside it. When I die, Could you arrange for someone to bring me back to Jean? The perpetual emptiness in Chinka's eyes softened with nostalgia. Alright, thank you, you're married. Chinka noticed the ring on my finger, her expression twisting with conflict. We're getting married tomorrow. We've known each other for 2 years. He's truly a wonderful man. Chinka's expression relaxed again. Congratulations. The next day, Peiyu and I held our wedding as planned. My parents kept a close eye on every arriving guest, terrified the Shin family might be plotting something to ruin this important day for me. But despite all precautions, an anonymous letter still found its way to my dressing room. As if anticipating my reluctance to open it, the letter lay bare on the table without any envelope. The handwriting was unmistakably Shinseo's. Qingyao, I never imagined the day would come when I'd attend your wedding to someone else, even knowing you'd hate me more. I still came here determined to ruin this ceremony. But when I arrived, I recognized everything, the decorations, every detail chosen to your taste. Long ago, you once poured your heart into preparing such a wedding for me too. Back then, because of Chin-ku, I was never husband material, and the man I've become now, I'm even less worthy of being yours. I can't let you become an unhappy bride again on such an important day. Coming into this world, I thought heaven had given me a chance to make amends, but in truth, it was to make me live with the sins of my past. When I tried to recall those 6 years of marriage, all I remember are my cold words and your heartbreak. I've always wronged you, ruined your entire previous life, and now I dared to cling to you again in this one. You were right not to choose me, Qingyao. I hope you never meet someone as wretched as me in your future. The dressing room door knocked. The bridesmaid came to remind the bride it was time to walk down the aisle. I tore the letter to shreds and tossed it where trash belongs, as I walked down the aisle in my flowing wedding dress. Peiyu's eyes were already red with tears before the officiant even spoke. 2 other loud sobs came from my parents in the crowd. Aside from those 3 crying a bit excessively, the wedding went smoothly without any hiccups until the very end. The spectators who came hoping for drama left disappointed when nothing juicy happened, and that lurking gaze from the shadows finally disappeared. Word soon spread through the circle that the recently recovered young master of the Shin family was leaving for abroad. Shinseo might be going for leg treatment, to resume his interrupted studies, or perhaps never to return. Fang Yun left with the son she'd doted on all her life. As for Shin Jifeng, the family fortune had been liquidated by Fang Yun. Before their departure, his wife and son called all his mistresses, yet when the time came, not a single person showed up. Left with no choice, Fang Yun hired a caretaker for him. She'd pay the bills but wouldn't bother checking in, extra. Chin-ku died shortly after being imprisoned. She took her own life by smashing her head against the wall. In life's final moments, memories truly flash before one's eyes like an unspooling reel. She saw Nian Jin again. Chin-ku grew up as a fierce orphan in the institution. When bullied, she'd fight back twice as hard. Malnourished for years, Chin-ku's frail frame doomed her to being pinned down in most fights. That day, she got into another brawl, this time over an egg, outnumbered. Chin-ku smashed the egg violently against the ground and stomped on it with all her might. The clean egg now lay ruined in the filthy mud, utterly inedible. The furious crowd closed in, ready to beat Chin-ku to a pulp. With no time to grab a weapon, Chin-ku racked her brains for the least painful way to take the beating, but the blows never came. The new boy from the orphanage chased them off wielding a brick. Chin-ku vaguely remembered this strikingly handsome boy. Nian Jin, was it? Unlike those street punks, Nian Jin was slightly older and actually treated Chin-ku like a girl. With Nian Jin's ruthless reputation, nobody dared mess with Chin-ku when she was around him. Chin-ku still offered to share her food with Nian Jin, though he'd always refuse. Not only did Nian Jin decline Chin-ku's food, he also refused the milk donated by the Shin family. In the end, Chin-ku drank both glasses of milk herself, completely baffled why Nian Jin would dislike something so wonderful. The Shin family's donations to this orphanage were just for polishing their public image. Chin-ku saw nothing wrong with that. As long as her belly was full, what did it matter whether their kindness was genuine? But when Nian Jin later explained his hatred for the Shins, she too came to despise those sweet, fragrant glasses of milk. Unlike Chin-ku, Nian Jin wasn't a child born to be abandoned. He had a mother who adored him, and 7 truly blissful years. Shinseo's whisper carried over the sea breeze, crystal clear in my ears. Chin had no say in the matter. She was bound and delivered to that man's chamber. The man was married. When his wife discovered her husband of less than a month was already philandering, she stormed to Nian Jin's mother. After beating her to a pulp, she banished the woman from Jincheng without a penny in compensation. So Nian Jin's mother had to start doing odd jobs just days after giving birth, without proper rest. The mother and son barely scraped by, but over time, accumulated health issues eventually broke her body down. Nian Jin harbored no hatred toward anyone except that lawless bastard Shen and his unreasonable wife. When Qin Ku was 12, 15-year-old Nian Jin left the orphanage on his own. Wait for me. Once I make enough money out there, I'll come back for you. After Nian Jin left, Qin Ku clung to his promise. Waiting day after day, 2 years later, Nian Jin did return for her. Qin Ku left with him. Nian Jin seemed to have made some real money, but his body bore countless new scars. He enrolled Qin Ku in the best schools and showered her with everything a girl her age could desire. He never dismissed Qin Ku's preferences. Whatever caught her fancy, he'd move heaven and earth to obtain. Under his care, Qin Ku flourished, and his blood-soaked days were nearly over, until his superiors dropped a catastrophic mess in his lap. A loan he guaranteed went south, and the final settlement left him liable for a staggering 9 million. Qin Ku's suicide attempt was finally discovered. Rushed to emergency care, her blood continued to trail behind her the entire way. She seemed to see Nian Jin again, the version who'd boldly confronted Shen Xiao and first raised his voice at her, and the blood-soaked Nian Jin who'd urged her to flee. Story 2. After my uncle died in a car accident, my cousin suffered severe mental trauma and came to my home to recuperate. She fell in love with my boyfriend, and everyone told me to give him up for her. Even my boyfriend said, "Euro, she's already so pitiful. Why are you making things difficult for her?" Later, I was also in a car accident. While I was being resuscitated, my cousin sobbed in my boyfriend's arms. So many people care when she dies, yet no one notices me when I'm alive. I died in the operating room, and my cousin took my guaranteed admission spot and married my boyfriend. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the time when my cousin had just arrived at my home. Bitch, you killed my dad, and now you're stealing my boyfriend too. The moment I opened my eyes, a tremendous force pushed me against the wall. Mo Kuer was holding scissors, about to slash my face. I instinctively resisted, pushing Mokur away. The scissors flew out of her hand as she staggered back several steps before tumbling down the stairs. Her hand was scraped, blood dripping down. Mokur simply sat on the floor, covering her face and sobbing uncontrollably. The surrounding classmates stopped and curiously turned to look in this direction. Song Euro, what are you doing? The person rushing over is my boyfriend Jianyu. He helped Mo Kuer up from the ground. Are you okay? Following closely behind Jianyu was my best friend Tang Xian. Seeing Jianyu like this, she was furious. Jianyu, are you blind? Mo Kuer was the one who grabbed scissors first, trying to slash Song Euro's face. Whose boyfriend are you really? Mokur can't tell. But you should know better. Perhaps Tang Xian's voice was too loud, as Mokur seemed startled, shrinking into Jianyu's arms and crying even harder. Jianyu frowned. Tang Xian, you know about Mokur's condition. After her father's sudden death, she developed severe psychological issues. How could you provoke her at a time like this? Don't you have even basic compassion? As if sensing protection, Mokur timidly tugged at Jianyu's sleeve and stubbornly repeated, "You're my boyfriend." Jianyu patted Mo Kuer's head and said in a soothing tone, Mo Kuer was satisfied. She glared at me and said triumphantly, "If I see you talking to Jianyu again, I won't be polite." Jianyu sighed. He gave me an apologetic look, then scooped Mo Kuer up in his arms. "Your hand is injured. I'll take you to the hospital first." 2. How familiar this scene was, in my past life. I also watched Jianyu and Mo Kuer leave like this. Back then, just like Tang Xian now, I was furious but utterly helpless. After all, Mo Kuer was truly pitiful. My aunt passed away while giving birth to her, and she was raised by her uncle, who then died in a car accident during her senior year of high school. As a result, Mo Kuer suffered severe psychological trauma and began experiencing intermittent episodes. To take care of her, my mother brought her to live with us. At first, I gave Mo Kuer everything she wanted. When she asked for my room or my clothes, I agreed without hesitation, until one day, Jianyu came to visit our home. He's the heartthrob of our school and also the young master of the Jiang group. Mo Kuer fell in love with him at first sight. "Sister, please give Jianyu to me." I rejected Mo Kuer, but after that, whenever Jianyu was mentioned, she would become somewhat hysterical. She started believing that Jianyu was her boyfriend, and that I was the other woman trying to steal him away. Whenever she saw Jianyu going on a date with me, she would cry bitterly and even cut herself with a small knife. Later on a rainy night, when Jianyu and I were watching a movie outside, she frantically called me, saying she had been kidnapped. I rushed over in a state of panic and got into a car accident on the way. during the emergency treatment, my soul seemed to detach from my body and float outside the operating room. Mokar was sobbing while curled up in Jianyu's arms. I was just joking. I never thought she'd take it seriously. If Sister Yuro died, so many people would remember her. But while I'm alive, I only suffer. No one has ever cared about me. Jianyu couldn't help but hold her tighter. Who says no one cares? You still have me. After my death, Mokar's mental state seemed to improve significantly all at once. She recognized my parents as her own, took over my guaranteed admission spot, and went to Tsinghua University with Jianyu. During Qingming Festival, she burned joss paper for me and my uncle. Dad, cousin, thank you for making this possible. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't even have gotten into a junior college. How could I be where I am today, at that moment? My soul was suddenly awakened. Mokar was never ill. It was all just an elaborate scheme. A clear female voice came from beside me. Do you want to start over? Without hesitation, I replied, yes. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day Mokar first transferred to our school. Watching Jianyu about to carry Mokar away, I suddenly strode forward and said in a deep voice, Jianyu, we're breaking up. Jianyu's expression changed instantly. He frowned and said, Yuro. Don't be rash, I'm serious, I said calmly. If you want to take care of Kuer, then take good care of her. We're over. After speaking, I turned and walked away without looking back, ignoring Jianyu desperately calling my name behind me. 3. After school, I called Tang Xian to the coffee shop. Does your father know someone in the traffic police department? I want to investigate the truth about my uncle's car accident. My uncle was an experienced truck driver. That day, everything seemed completely normal. Yet he drove straight into a bridge pier. After hearing me out, Tang Xian got goosebumps. Are you suggesting his death might not be accidental? I remained silent. Uncle was a good man, not particularly capable, but fiercely independent. My family had offered financial help multiple times, but he always politely declined. After his death, Mokar was adopted by my family, moved into a spacious villa, and began living a life with chauffeurs and maids at her service. Everything is just speculation for now. But recalling the expression on Mokar's face when she mourned her father in her previous life, I can't help but think the worst. Tang Xian said it was no problem to leave it to her. She had just left when my phone rang. It was Jianyu. Yuro, where are you? Let's talk. I had no intention of meeting Jianyu, but he still managed to find this cafe, relying on his familiarity with me. Yuro, don't be angry. Holding my favorite pistachio cream puff, he sat beside me. You know, the only one I love is you. In my past life, I would have softened upon hearing such words, but now I just smiled coldly, holding Mokar in your arms while loving me in your heart, double-minded as ever, truly worthy of young Master Jiang. Jianyu grew somewhat angry. I was just acting with Mokar to stabilize her emotions. You're her own cousin, seeing her so ill. Don't you feel compelled to do something? Doctors exist for her illness. Why should I need to do anything? I waved my hand. Enough, Jianyu. Breaking up is best for both of us. I've already called the hotel to cancel the engagement venue preparations. Jianyu was stunned, staring at me in disbelief. Are you serious? He immediately glared at me angrily. San Yuro, engagement is a very serious matter. There's no need to joke about it just because you're upset with me. It's no wonder Jianyu didn't believe it. After all, I had always loved him so much, wholeheartedly determined to go to Tsinghua University with him, with every plan for the future filled with thoughts of him. But now I don't want any of it anymore. One last time, I'm not joking, nor am I being petty. I met his gaze calmly. Breaking up, it's that simple. Jianyu growled in a low voice. I don't agree. Before his words faded, a figure rushed into the cafe. Mokar grabbed the coffee from the table and splashed it on me with lightning speed. Bitch, she screamed. Before I could retaliate, she swayed and collapsed into Jianyu's arms. Jianyu held Mokar protectively with one hand while gripping me tightly with the other. His face drenched in sweat. Amid the chaos, I glanced behind the coffee shop counter. The boss secretly gave me an okay hand gesture. The corners of his mouth curled up silently. The owner of this coffee shop is my friend. And I just signaled him to turn on the camera. The entire episode of Mokar's outburst was recorded. This is my backup plan. Prison or mental hospital. I must send her to one of them. 4. The day's farce ended with Jianyu sending Mokar to the hospital. I went home alone and found no one there. Apparently, my parents received the call and went to the hospital to see Mokar. I sat in the unlit living room, quietly pondering for a while. In truth, my parents love me very much. But they are also extremely strict with me, always holding me to the highest standards. When I was little and had conflicts with other children, they would always make me apologize first. Not to mention that this time, Moker appeared as the complete underdog in everyone's eyes, so whenever there was any conflict between me and her, they would always superficially take her side more. This time when they went to the hospital, Moker must have played the victim again, probably throwing a lot of mud at me. Sure enough, a little over an hour later, Mom and Dad came home with Moker. Mom was supporting the weak Moker, while Dad's face was as cold as ice. Euro, come here, Dad called me. I clearly saw that behind him, Moker appeared to be weakly nestling in Mom's arms, but in reality, a barely noticeable smile had crept onto the corners of her lips. Did you provoke Kaur again? Dad's voice carried anger. You know perfectly well Kaur is sick, yet you embarrassed her in public. Euro, when did you become someone so devoid of empathy? Look, Moker is twisting the truth again. Clearly she was the one who rushed in and splashed coffee on me, yet now it's turned into me embarrassing her. If this were my past life, I would desperately defend myself, trying to prove I didn't do such a thing. But in this lifetime, I know self-justification is useless. What works is going crazy together with Mokur. Isn't it just pretending to be sick? If you can do it, so can I. Lowering my head silently, I said in a pained voice, I'm sorry, Dad, I know I've let you down. Then, I took out a thick document folder, emptied it, revealing a diagnosis report provided by a psychological counselor and a completed leave of absence application form. My parents' expressions changed abruptly, and even Mokur couldn't help but straighten her posture. My eyes were red and swollen as I helplessly pinched my own arm. Lately, I can't control my emotions at all, and I'm completely unable to focus when studying. If this continues, I feel like I might end up taking my own life. Parents have limited energy, they can't take care of both me and Kaur at the same time. As the older sister, I should give way to her. So let Kaur take the college entrance exam this year, I'll take a gap year. As soon as I finished speaking, Mom was the first to panic. This won't do. Dad was slightly calmer than Mom. He pulled her into the bedroom. The two lowered their voices, yet fragments of their conversation still reached us intermittently. Mom's voice trembled with tears. It's all my fault. I only thought Kaur needed care, so I brought her home. But I never imagined it would affect Euro too. Dad comforted her. Don't blame yourself yet. What's important now is finding a proper solution. In the living room, Mokur glared at me with resentment. She picked up the psychological counseling diagnosis form I had placed on the table. Song Euro, when did you go to the counseling center? This must be fake. I curled my lips slightly and whispered, you've never even been to a psychiatric department, just running your mouth. At least I have a fake certificate. The next second, our parents pushed the door open. I immediately put on a helpless expression. Please, stop blaming me. I'm willing to give Jiangyu and our parents to you. If that's still not enough, I'm ready to disappear from this world forever. Euro, what are you saying? Mom rushed over and tightly grasped my hand. You must never think like that. Dad then came before Kaur and said gently, here's the thing. We've discussed it and decided that our family has another house in the southern part of the city, which is closer to school. Kaur, why don't you move there first? We'll hire a caregiver to look after you. Kaur's eyes widened. Uncle, are you abandoning me? She immediately began to panic. Uncle, please, you're my only family left. Don't cast me aside. Both parents comforted her together, their tone extremely gentle but their stance unshakably firm. I sobbed quietly on the side, but inwardly sneered. In my past life, after I died in a car accident, my parents were utterly heartbroken. At that time, Mokur volunteered to become their daughter and care for them in their old age. Unaware of the truth, they agreed. But now, I'm still alive. Parents always favor their own flesh and blood. They couldn't just stand by and watch Mokur drive me to depression and suicide. Just like that, Mokur was sent away from our home. She went around school playing the victim, claiming I kicked her out of the house. Classmates started calling me a wicked sister for treating a poor orphaned girl so cruelly. I couldn't even be bothered to respond. The college entrance exam was what truly mattered. These rumors meant nothing. After high school graduation, most people would never see each other again anyway. Jiangyu also confronted me. Kiki cried to me half the night yesterday. Was it really necessary to treat her like that? I buried myself in solving analytic geometry problems without even looking up. Jiangyu, we've already broken up. You don't seem to have any standing to criticize me. I never agreed to break up, Jiangyu said resolutely. The engagement is a matter between two families. How can you end it with just one sentence? Well, that's interesting. I put down my pen, looked up, and smiled meaningfully. So you're saying you're still my boyfriend, since you're still my boyfriend? Can you explain why Emokura was crying with you half the night, a man and woman alone together late at night? Who do you think is being more inappropriate here? Jiangyu was choked with anger. I only feel sympathy for Emokura. She's your cousin and also my classmate. I smiled without saying anything. Actually, there's a recording in my phone. It was during Jiangyu's gathering with his friends when one of them recorded it and sent it to me. In the recording, whether Jiangyu was drunk or not, he said in a smug voice, "Have you all watched The Heaven Sword and Dragon Saber? Don't you think Song Yuro is just like Xiao Min, and Emokura resembles Xiao Zhao?" I sneered. What era is this? Still trying to play the red and white rose game? It's just that right now, I don't want to keep arguing with Jiangyu. Verbal disputes are useless. The more you argue with rotten people, the deeper you sink. What I want to seize is tangible benefits. 5. But Jiangyu is like a piece of chewed gum. Once it sticks, you can't shake it off. The school organized alumni from Tsinghua and Peking University to come back and give lectures, with the top 30 students in the grade attending. Coincidentally, Jiangyu happened to be sitting right next to me. Before the meeting started, he stopped me, seeming somewhat hesitant to speak. There's something I don't know how to bring up. Then don't. I tried to walk past him, but he blocked my way. Jiangyu gritted his teeth and finally spoke up. Could you give your guaranteed admission spot to Emokura? No, I didn't even bother to lift my eyelids as I tried to shake Jiangyu off. Jiangyu grew anxious, gripping my wrist tightly as he forcibly pulled me to the side of the corridor. Yuro, listen to me. Saving a life is more meritorious than building a 7-story pagoda. Right now, you're the only one who can save Kura. Under my scrutinizing gaze, Jiangyu haltingly recounted the entire incident. It turned out Emokura had stirred up trouble again. She faked a suicide in the bathtub, then called Jiangyu, who broke down the door at the last moment before she lost consciousness and saved her. After enduring this melodrama straight out of an 80s tragic romance novel, Emokura tearfully told Jiangyu that if she couldn't attend the same school as him, she would die. As everyone knows, both Jiangyu and I have been recommended for admission to Tsinghua University. As for Emokura's grades, the gap to get into Tsinghua is probably about 400 points short. That's great, Jiangyu. I nodded. Since Emokura is determined to attend the same school as you, and you really want to make her wish come true, why don't? Under Jiangyu's expectant gaze, I smiled at him and said, you tutor her. Although there's only 1 month left until the college entrance exams, perhaps heaven will be moved by your kindness and create a miracle. I turned and walked away, but Jiangyu, furious, blocked my path in one swift step. Song Yuro, do you even hear the nonsense you're saying? In Emokura's current state, how can she possibly take the college entrance exams normally? If you don't want to take the exams but still want to get into Tsinghua, then let's all stop studying and learn how to play the victim instead. I rolled my eyes. Please, just move aside. I need to attend the lecture. I finally shook off Jiangyu and strode forward with long steps. Behind me, he said with a sinister tone, Song Yuro, don't think I don't know. Her father's death was your doing. The words were so shocking that I couldn't help but stop in my tracks, turning back in astonishment. Kura told me everything. That day, it was you who said you wanted to eat free-range chicken soup. Her father had just returned from driving and went out again to deliver the chicken to you. He was fatigued while driving, which led to the accident. Perhaps my expression was too unpleasant. Jiangyu softened his tone. Of course, Yuro, I know you didn't do it on purpose, but what's done is done. Kura has become like this now, and you bear some responsibility. You should atone to Kura. I remained silent as Jiangyu stepped forward, trying to embrace me. Yuro, I know you don't believe me, but I truly only feel pity for Emokura. She's your sister, and I treat her as one too. But in my heart, the one I love has always been you. Before Jiangyu could finish speaking, a cold voice interrupted him. Classmate, you've been blocking this path for almost 10 minutes. When are you going to move? Jiangyu and I turned our heads together. A girl in a white shirt stood not far away, with gold-rimmed glasses hanging on her chest, hands in her pockets, her expression somewhat aloof. I recognized her. She was one of the speakers for this lecture, Senior Su Shaoran, who went to Peking University. For some reason, the moment I heard her voice, I suddenly froze. When I was reborn, a voice whispered in my ear, do you want to start over? That voice was exactly the same as Su Shaoran's from just moments ago. Bro, this isn't working. The girl is clearly annoyed with you, yet you're still pestering her here. Behind Su Shaoran, a tall young man sauntered up with a carefree attitude. His face had an ageless quality, blending a man's mature features with a youth's clear-eyed freshness. A name tag pinned to his chest read, Alumni Ji Zhao. In that instant, fragmented memories suddenly flooded my mind like scattered puzzle pieces. A strong intuition tells me I've seen these two people before. 6. Thanks to Su Xiaoran and Ji Zhao. Jiang Yu couldn't continue pestering me. As soon as the lecture ended, I immediately bypassed the crowd and approached Su Xiaoran. Senior, could I have your contact information? Su Xiaoran studied me for a long time, then smiled. Didn't you get directly admitted to Tsinghua? I'm from Peking University. You should go find your Tsinghua seniors. I hesitated for a long time before finally asking tactfully. Have we met before? The moment I spoke, Su Xiaoran's expression changed. Ji Zhao, who had followed and now stood behind her, also showed a subtle shift in expression. At school, Su Xiaoran asked with apparent calmness. I mustered the courage to shake my head. No, not at school. It was with people coming and going around us. I didn't dare speak too directly, so I hinted vaguely. By a riverside, with red lotuses on the opposite bank. One of you was on a boat, the other on the bridgehead. Before I could finish speaking, both Su Xiaoran and Ji Zhao's expressions turned grave. You actually remembered, Su Xiaoran murmured softly. This probably means you'll face many more trials ahead. She tore off a sticky note, wrote down a string of numbers, and handed it to me. Here, this is my WeChat. After Su Xiaoran and Ji Zhao left, I added that WeChat account. The ID is very strange, called the Upstream Traveler. Before I could even say hello, a meme was thrown at me, followed by a few lines that gave me goosebumps. Whether a reborn person can survive depends on fate. Your current situation is very bad. You might die again. If there's danger, send a message to this WeChat. I held the phone, my fingertips trembling slightly. I've already avoided all the critical moments from my previous life. Could Moker have some new trick up her sleeve to kill me? 7. I locked myself in my room and thought it over carefully all night, then decided to adjust my strategy appropriately. So when Jiang Yu called me again, instead of hanging up as usual, I answered. Jiang Yu seemed surprised, then let out a long sigh. You've finally stopped giving me the cold shoulder. I tried hard to suppress the urge to roll my eyes and said calmly, what's the matter? Jiang Yu said, it's my birthday party on Friday. All the classmates will be there. You'll come to celebrate with me, right? All the classmates will be there. I let out a silent scoff and asked, will Mokur be coming too? Jiang Yu's throat felt a bit dry. Well, if you don't want to. No, that's not what I meant. I'll go celebrate your birthday with you. Hanging up the phone, I smiled faintly. Mokur is quite something. She gets sick when told to study for college entrance exams, but miraculously recovers when invited to a party. But it's okay. I actually wanted to find an opportunity to observe her movements, so on Friday evening, I arrived on time for Jiang Yu's birthday party. The party was held in a private club's VIP room, with Jiang Yu naturally being the undisputed center of attention. Surrounded by everyone, Mokur stood right beside him, clearly dressed up for the occasion with light makeup and wearing a Chanel suit. I narrowed my eyes slightly. That dress was mine. I had originally planned to wear this dress today, but couldn't find it in my closet. Even the housekeeper said she hadn't seen it, so I had to grab another set at the last minute. Never thought I'd see it on Mokur. The Jiang family is a prominent household. Jiang Yu's birthday banquet had networking undertones, with people from the business world constantly coming to toast the future young master. After toasting, they would glance at Mokur beside Jiang Yu, and Mokur would also greet them with a smile. I've long heard of Miss Song's excellence, and seeing her today truly lives up to her reputation. Our company has always been interested in collaborating with President Song. If possible, we hope Miss Song could put in a good word for us. This is the gift I prepared for Mrs. Song. Mokur smiled broadly, indicating she would deliver both the message and the gift. But before she could take the gift box, a hand reached out from the side and snatched it first. That hand was, of course, mine. Taking the gift box, I smiled and nodded in thanks to the giver. My mother loves this brand of face cream the most. I'll thank you on her behalf first. The guests froze, sizing me up before hesitantly asking, you are, Song Euro. I extended my hand gracefully to shake hands and greet the other person. The guests were completely baffled. And this young lady is, everyone's gaze fell upon Mokur. Obviously, apart from our schoolmates, everyone else had mistaken Mokur for me. After all, I'm the one engaged to Jiang Yu, and the one who should be standing beside him at today's birthday banquet is me. Clearly, Mokur has taken what doesn't belong to her. Before Mokur could introduce herself, I cut in, Uncle, you came to celebrate Jiang Yu's birthday and likely wanted to send a gift to the Song family through me. Now that both purposes are accomplished, why bother about who anyone else is? As soon as I finished speaking, Mokur's face instantly turned pale. The guest was also tactful. After all, He had favors to ask of my family, so he immediately chimed in, Miss Song is absolutely right. I'm terribly sorry for mistaking you earlier. With such clear and eloquent speech, Miss Song is truly a lady of noble upbringing. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Imo Kaur so angry that her eyes turned red. She turned her head and ran out the door. That pitiful look was truly heartbreaking. I noticed Jiang Yu's expression filled with concern. Clearly about to follow her, I grabbed him. Fiancé, where are you going? Jiang Yu angrily pushed my hand away. Song Yuro, is this really necessary? Imo Kaur is also part of your family, since you hadn't arrived yet. She was just helping to receive gifts. Why must you make sarcastic remarks about her in front of so many strangers? I sneered. That's right, helping to receive gifts for me. Next, will she be helping to stand by your side, helping to cut the cake with you? And maybe even helping to marry you in my place? Jiang Yu frowned deeply. Yuro, I always thought you were a generous and graceful girl. How could you become like this? With that, he left me behind and chased after her alone. Everyone turned to look at me. They all saw how the Jiang family's crown prince had just abandoned his fiancée to chase after Imo Kaur. Imo Kaur, she must be feeling pretty smug. Right, it's fine. Let her enjoy her moment for a few days. After all, just moments ago, I had already grasped the clues I wanted to know. 8. That night, I received a text message from Imo Kaur. Inside was a photo of Jiang Yu lying on the bed, clothes half removed, eyes slightly closed. He's with you, but the one he truly loves is me. Song Yuro, you still lost. I looked at my phone and let out a mocking laugh. Do you know how to truly crush someone's spirit? It's when they think they're just one step away from success. You kick them straight down from the clouds. So I opened WeChat and posted a moment's update visible only to Jiang Yu. The content was a large bouquet of roses, captioned with, "Thank you for the flowers, I love them." After posting this update, I put my phone on Do Not Disturb mode and fell straight asleep. The next day was a weekend. When I woke up, there were over a dozen missed calls on my phone, all from Jiang Yu. Opening WeChat, Jiang Yu had already sent several screens worth of messages. Song Yuro, who sent you those flowers? You're my fiancé, yet you're still being ambiguous with other men outside. What would your parents think if they knew? How ridiculous. Jiang Yu seems to eternally lack the capacity for self-reflection, strict with others, lenient with himself. From this perspective, he and Imo Kaur are truly well-matched, but now, he's finally experiencing the stinging pain too. This is my reasoning. No matter how many times I tell Jiang Yu to cancel the engagement, he'll only think I'm being petulant. But when there's a possibility I might fall for someone else, that's when he'll truly panic. When you're about to lose something, that thing suddenly becomes extraordinarily precious. Sure enough, after these few venting words, Jiang Yu quickly began to make amends. I admit it was wrong of me to leave you at the birthday banquet, but there were reasons for it. You should understand me, Yuro. You'll never meet anyone who treats you better than I do. I deliberately didn't reply to these messages, intending to create a sense of crisis for Jiang Yu. That night, Jiang Yu waited outside my house holding roses the entire time. He even repeatedly questioned my housekeeper. Has any other guy come looking for Yuro recently? I waited until the perfect moment before finally letting him in. He waited outside the door for over 2 hours. Normally, he would have stormed off long ago, but this time, Jiang Yu showed no trace of impatience on his face, even feeling a hint of relief when I finally let him in. You still can't let go of me, right? He handed the bouquet of roses into my arms. Endless coldness welled up in my heart, yet a smile hung on my lips. Of course, the joy of regaining what was lost filled Jiang Yu's heart, and he began repeatedly confirming every detail of the engagement ceremony with me. Meanwhile, to compete with that love rival, Jiang Yu forced me to take photos of the roses he gave me, along with the rings on both our hands, pressuring me to post another WeChat Moments update. I pretended to be reluctant. Oh, everyone will naturally find out at the engagement ceremony anyway. The more unwilling I appeared, the more insistent Jiang Yu became. Not everyone will attend the engagement ceremony. You must post this WeChat Moments update. And so, seemingly coerced by Jiang Yu, I posted this official relationship announcement on WeChat Moments. Very well, everything is within my expectations. Dear Imo Kaur, what kind of mood are you in when you see this moment? If you want to take action, please do so as soon as possible. After all, the plan I've been weaving for so long is about to come to fruition. That night, after Jiang Yu left, I made 3 phone calls. The first was to Su Xiaoran. I'd been frequently meeting her for coffee lately, and we'd become quite close friends. She sounded drowsy when answering, as if she was about to sleep. What do you want? Nothing, just thought I should let you know since I stole your picture. Yes, That picture I posted on Moments for Jianyu to see, the roses in it were actually sent by Su Xiaoran's boyfriend Ji Zhao. Su Xiaoran and I were eating out at the time. Ji Zhao had somehow offended her, but since he was out of town and couldn't apologize in person, he sent flowers instead to make amends. After hearing the whole story, Su Xiaoran was practically dying of laughter at Jianyu's antics, but she quickly composed herself. By provoking Mo Kuo like this, she might retaliate with extreme measures. Are you prepared for that? It's no wonder Su Xiaoran was concerned. According to her, those who are reborn defy the will of heaven, making them less likely to be favored by good fortune. But I just smiled and said, of course. After ending the conversation with Su Xiaoran, I made another call to my best friend Tang Xian. How's the progress on that matter I asked you to handle this morning? Half an hour later, I hung up the phone call with Tang Xian. Raising my hand to open Mo Kuo's chat window, I stared at her profile picture. In this selfie, Mo Kuo appeared so fragile, innocent, and charmingly pure. Yet no one could imagine what kind of demon was hidden beneath this facade. I have many ways to make this demon die without a sound, but that's not enough. I want her exposed in broad daylight for all to see, then reduced to ashes, never to be reborn. 9. The days that followed seemed peaceful and beautiful. All arrangements for Jianyu and my engagement were finalized, the guest list was drawn up, and invitations were sent out. Since the Jiang family had corporate promotional tasks recently, they even arranged a live broadcast for the engagement banquet, leveraging the buzz around the Jiangsong Alliance to promote their company's upcoming new product. Theoretically speaking, it was quite unethical for the Jiang family to exploit our marriage for corporate advertising by using public resources for private gain. My parents weren't happy about it either, but I gently persuaded them. Live streaming allows more people to witness this engagement ceremony. It's a good thing, that's right. The more viewers, the happier I am. Soon, the day of the engagement banquet arrived. With 3 hours left until the ceremony, I finished my makeup and was ready to change into my gown before being picked up by the driver to head to the venue. I asked the nanny, "Where's the evening gown?" The nanny handed me a glass of water. "It's downstairs, I'll go get it now." "Have some water first, miss." 10 minutes later, the nanny pushed open the door. The room was completely silent. I lay on the ground with my eyes tightly shut, a fallen glass beside my hand, half its water drunk, the other half spilled on the floor. The nanny approached, tried nudging me, and called my name. I showed no response, clearly in a deep coma. The nanny let out a long sigh, picked up her phone, and sent a text message. Moments later, the bedroom door was pushed open again, and the person who entered was Mo Kuo. She nudged me with the tip of her shoe and said coldly, "Song Euro. So you've come to this." Then, Mo Kuo took out an envelope filled with money from her bag and shoved it to the nanny. "Leave immediately, no matter who asks you later. Just say you know nothing." The nanny looked nervous. "Miss Kuo, what are you going to do?" "None of your business," Mo Kuo said coldly. The nanny still couldn't rest easy. "Please don't do anything too extreme, or I'll be implicated too. Can you stop the nonsense?" Mo Kuo snapped irritably. "Your son is still waiting for you at the hospital." The nanny didn't dare say anything more and hurried away with the money. Only Mo Kuo and I remained in the room. She calmly removed the jewelry from me and adorned herself with it, then headed to the dressing room where she found the engagement dress I had prepared. "Sis, you know what? I've always been jealous of you. We're children of the same pair of sisters. Yet you live in a grand villa while I'm stuck in a rundown apartment building. You're about to marry into a wealthy family. Everyone calls you Mrs. Jiang, while I'm stuck with a bunch of small-time thugs. This isn't fair," Mo Kuo said while leisurely changing her clothes. After changing, she waited a moment longer until the roar of motorcycles sounded below, and a group of thuggish-looking men appeared downstairs. Mo Kuo opened the door for them and briefly instructed, "Follow the plan, strip off their clothes, take photos, and wait for my message. Once you receive it, send the photos to me." 10. Mo Kuo left. Several tall men surrounded me. After waiting for over 10 minutes, the leader of the thugs, probably thinking the time was right, lit a cigarette and pointed at me. "Strip her naked." Immediately, a man approached me. However, the moment he approached me, I suddenly snapped my eyes wide open, kicking him square in the groin. I staggered back amidst his ear-splitting scream. The men instantly sensed something amiss, but before they could flank me, 2 figures emerged from behind the screen in my room. "I adore the Song family's interior style," Ji Zhao remarked wistfully. "Let's decorate our future home like this after we're married, shall we?" Su Xiaoran snorted coldly. "Who said anything about marrying you?" I was speechless. "Can you two help me solve this crisis first before showing off your love?" Before my words even finished, Ji Zhao had already sprung into action. He swiftly darted in front of a man and grabbed him by the collar. The man roared, "Where did this little brat come from?" Ji Zhao narrowed his eyes, clearly displeased. "Disrespecting elders. I don't like that." With that, he single-handedly lifted the man and slammed him onto a nearby cabinet. The other two men exchanged glances, drew spring knives from their coats, and charged at Ji Zhao from both sides. Ji Zhao sighed. Fighting in ancient times was more interesting. Modern kids don't have any martial arts skills at all. With that, he disarmed both men barehanded, kicking one into the restroom and hurling the other straight out the second-floor window. The last remaining gang leader was utterly terrified. Instinctively, he knew he couldn't fight Ji Zhao. This young man's movements clearly weren't those of a normal person, so he set his sights on Su Xiaoran standing not far away. Su Xiaoran had the typical appearance of a top student good girl, white shirt, white skirt, looking every bit the fragile model student. Ji Zhao's voice immediately distorted, "Don't touch her." It was too late. The gang leader had already lunged at Su Xiaoran, the sharp switchblade about to press against her neck. Su Xiaoran calmly glanced at the thug, and in the next second, this model student raised the object in her hand, a brick. It smashed directly onto the thug's head. "I told you not to mess with her." Ji Zhao stood aside, sighing helplessly with his hands in his pockets. "She doesn't know her own strength." The thug collapsed to the ground, bleeding from all 7 orifices. Su Xiaoran took out his phone and handed it to me. "Everything unfolded pretty much as you predicted." I smiled faintly, just as Su Xiaoran said. "Everything went according to my plan. As early as Jiang Yu's birthday banquet, I had already suspected that our family's nanny had been bribed by Mo Cour. The reason was simple. The Chanel suit Mo Cour wore that day, apart from myself, only the nanny knew where it was kept, so I began quietly observing the nanny afterward and indeed discovered she was privately contacting Mo Cour. After confirming this suspicion, I became extremely wary of the nanny's every word and action. Never truly consuming any food or drink she handed me, I secretly took the nanny's phone when she wasn't paying attention. Sure enough, under my constant provocation, Mo Cour decided to make her move on me today, so I contacted Su Xiaoran and Ji Zhao in advance, asking them to set up an ambush at my place. "This phone must be the one you used to contact Mo Cour, right?" I said to the gang leader. He was lying on the ground, pinned under Ji Zhao's foot. He raised his head and glared at me angrily without saying a word. "Mo Cour asked you to take nude photos of me, send them to her, and then she would publicly reveal them at the engagement ceremony. Am I right?" The gang leader still remained silent. "Resisting now is pointless. You trespassed into my home, drugged me, and intended to cause bodily harm. All of this is solid evidence. If you don't want to go to jail, then do as I say." I held the phone up to the gang leader's face. "Unlock your phone." The gang leader turned his head away, ignoring me. "Fingerprints should work too." Ji Zhao attempted to grab the gang leader's hand. However, the gangster did something no one expected. He stuck his thumb in his mouth and bit down hard, making it bleed profusely. In short, he wouldn't reveal the password, and he destroyed the fingerprint that could unlock the phone. "Don't even think about impersonating me to contact Cour," he shouted. His voice laced with menace and a hint of smugness. I lowered my gaze to study him. After a moment, I smiled faintly. "So that's how it is. You weren't bribed. You genuinely care for her." The gang leader, having had his feelings exposed, turned his head away to avoid my gaze. I smiled. "So that's how it is." These troublemakers were all quite young, and in their eyes, Mo Cour must have seemed like a pure, unblemished jasmine flower, even if this jasmine flower made them commit heinous acts. It must have been because she was wronged first and had no other choice. In that case, this should be easy to handle. I took out my phone and pulled up the recording I had just made. Mo Cour's voice rang out clearly. "You're about to marry into wealth. Everyone calls you Mrs. Jiang, and me, I'm surrounded by a bunch of lowlifes. If my future means marrying such low-quality men, I'd rather die." The voice was cold and merciless, yet unmistakably Mo Cour's. The gang leader's body jerked violently. He raised his head and stared fixedly at my phone, his eyes bloodshot. "Got it, you like her so much, but she's never thought highly of you. You're just a stepping stone to be used. Once she steps over you to latch onto the Jiang family's young master, she'll toss you aside. Now, think again. Do you want to cooperate with me or not?" 11. Mo Cour stood in the hall, watching the lavishly dressed guests. She swallowed hard, feeling inexplicably nervous. She took out her phone and sent a message to Shunzi. "Is the video recorded? Send it over." Soon, a file was sent over. Mo Cour opened it but found it couldn't play properly. "What's going on? It won't open." Shunzi's reply came quickly. "It won't open on the phone. But aren't you going to connect to the big screen? The big screen can play it." A hint of unease rose in Mo Cour's heart, but she quickly suppressed this worry by force. Shunzi was the leader of these small-time hoodlums and also her biggest admirer. She had always promised Shunzi that once she scammed money from these rich people, she would marry him, so Shunzi obeyed her every word. If Shunzi says there's no problem, then there's no problem. So Emokur quietly approached the control panel. At this moment, the large screen was displaying some old photos of Jianyu and Song Yuro, with no one at the computer controlling the system. Emokur sat down and imported a video from her phone. Soon, all the guests would see Song Yuro's indecent video. Moreover, this engagement banquet was being live-streamed, meaning countless people would witness this scene. The Jiang family, being such a status-conscious clan, would never allow Song Yuro to set foot in their household again. Emokur imported the video and fiercely pressed the play button. 12. In the center of the auditorium, everyone turned their heads. Drawn by the video that suddenly began playing on the large screen, with a frenzied smile, Emokur also turned her gaze toward the large screen. In the next second, her smile froze on her face. The video scene was set in a coffee shop. Jianyu and Song Yuro were originally talking when suddenly a disheveled girl rushed in. She threw a cup of coffee on Song Yuro, then collapsed into Jianyu's arms. Jianyu tried to protect the girl and even got into an argument with Song Yuro. The guests were already whispering among themselves, "Oh my god, what's going on here? Who is this woman? She seems mentally unstable. Why is Jianyu still protecting her? Could this girl be the other woman?" Soon, a customer noticed Emokur sitting by the computer. "Ah, isn't that the girl from the video?" Yes, that's her. What does this mean? She came here to play this kind of video. Is she trying to steal the groom?" Before Mokur could leave, Jianyu rushed forward and grabbed her. "Mokur, what are you doing?" Jianyu growled in a low voice. "Did you come here to ruin my engagement party on purpose?" Mokur's lips trembled. "Impossible. The video playing should have been the one Shunzi sent. It's not me. Please let me explain." Mokur didn't know what to do either, so she hastily grabbed her phone. "Someone sent me this video." Perhaps too flustered to find a scapegoat, or perhaps wanting to ask what was going on. In any case, Mokur made a call to Shunzi. The familiar ringtone sounded from behind. Mokur turned around abruptly, dressed in evening attire. I stood not far behind her, raising the object in my hand with a flourish. It was Shunzi's phone. The next second, I stepped onto the stage, took the microphone, and said, "Hello everyone, thank you all for attending my wedding. I believe you've just seen the video played by my cousin Emokur. Clearly, this three-way relationship is a bit too crowded, making me seriously reconsider whether this engagement should proceed." Jianyu shouted, "Song Yuro, what are you doing? How many times have I told you? I only pity Emokur." I smiled slightly. "Oh, then next, I also have a video I'd like to play." I connected my phone to the large screen. Then, heavy breathing sounds echoed through the auditorium. In the scene, Emokur sits on the hospital bed, raising her teary eyes to Jianyu. "Please, can you give me some redemption?" Jianyu remained silent, closing his eyes as Emokur leaned in and kissed his lips, as if some boundary had suddenly been broken. Jianyu abruptly pulled Emokur into a deeper kiss. The video clearly captures the sound of their rapid, heavy breathing. As the playback ended, the auditorium fell as silent as a graveyard. Jianyu turned deathly pale. Emokur has mental illness. I was just assisting with the treatment." Before he could finish, Emokur jumped up. "No, I don't." Emokur's strategy was clear. She merely feigned illness at my home, relying on others' sympathy to survive. But today, in front of so many people, especially with the live broadcast, she absolutely couldn't admit to having a mental illness. Otherwise, not only would the Jiang family never allow Jianyu to marry a mentally ill wife, but her future education and job prospects would also be affected. Emokur frantically pulled out her medical report from her bag. "Jianyu, look, everything about me is normal." "That's great." Someone interrupted her. Emokur looked up in shock and stared at me, holding the microphone. I smiled calmly and repeated, "That's great. I'm so glad you're completely normal. Otherwise I'd really be afraid you might escape criminal responsibility under the guise of mental illness." The next second, as if to confirm my words, the police burst through the door. 2 female officers stepped forward, flanking Emokur on either side, and escorted her away. In the corner, my already shocked parents were utterly dumbfounded upon witnessing this scene. "Yuro, what's going on here?" I looked to the side and saw Tang Xian, who had entered with the police, walking over to me. "Uncle and Aunt, Yuro came to me several months ago, suspecting that Emokur's father's death wasn't as simple as it seemed. My dad looked into it and indeed found many suspicious points. For example, Emokur's father was clearly an experienced driver, yet that day he wasn't wearing a seatbelt. causing him to shatter the windshield upon hitting the bridge pier and be thrown from the car into the river. Moreover, Mo Kuer didn't report her father missing for 48 hours, making the autopsy significantly more difficult by the time his body was found. However, through subsequent investigations, we still uncovered many clues. We discovered that the thermos in Moker's father's car contained traces of hallucinogenic drugs, and Moker had online purchase records for this type of drug several months before her father's accident. Mom's legs gave way, but luckily Dad caught her, the one we adopted and brought home. Yes, he's a demon, I whispered. Uncle repeatedly refused our family's financial support, living a frugal life with Moker. He thought he was teaching her self-respect and independence, unaware that Moker had long considered him an obstacle. Jiang Yu, standing nearby, turned pale. He stepped forward, trembling, and said, "Euro, I was blind before, too kind-hearted." Without looking at him, I coldly replied, "Jiang Yu, you were never blind. You're not kind-hearted, you're lustful, greedy, foolish, and have no principles." I took my parents and Tang Xian by the hand and walked away without turning back. "Don't come looking for me again, you're simply not worthy of me." 13. Epilogue. Later, the court's verdict on Moker's patricide case caused a huge uproar. The Jiang family's reputation was completely ruined during that livestream. Jiang Yu, once the illustrious heir of the Jiang group, became a universally despised scumbag and laughingstock. The Jiang family's business plummeted, and Jiang Yu gradually developed mental issues. In the end, his parents took him and left the city. My academic journey progressed smoothly afterward, but the only odd thing was that I never saw Su Xiaoran and Ji Zhao again. I messaged the WeChat account named Time Traveler, but Su Xiaoran rarely replied, only occasionally sending me a voice message. "We have new work." Deep down, I had a vague idea of what their work entailed. After all, Su Xiaoran once created a small group chat with me and Ji Zhao, and I noticed Ji Zhao's WeChat ID was Soul Chaser. Our trio's group chat was named Work Group 018. Perhaps I was their client number 018. What I don't understand is that they provided me with so much assistance without charging me a single penny. What exactly is the compensation for their work? In the spring of the following year, many of my questions were finally answered. Su Xiaoran sent me a text message. The content was just 4 words: "Want to eat grilled meat?" 14. Large slices of fatty beef sprinkled with scallion sizzle on the copper grill, releasing an aromatic oil fragrance. Surrounding them are garlic-buttered mushrooms arranged like small bowls around the grill's edge, already exuding juices that bubble with a boiling sound. Su Xiaoran picked up a piece of kimchi and chewed, finally finished the busy work. Even Spring Festival wasn't peaceful. Across the table, Ji Zhao was using scissors to cut open a molten lava steak with cheese filling. "You've worked hard, dear, eat more meat." Su Xiaoran rolled her eyes. "Who's your dear? Get lost." She picked up a piece of grilled fatty beef and put it on my plate. "What do you know about the two of us?" I kept my head down, focusing on eating and playing dumb. What? About you two? I know you're from Peking University, but I don't think Ji Senior ever mentioned which school he's from." Su Xiaoran waved her hand. "No need to pretend, Junior. I know you're smart. Just say what you know, since it's come to this. I can't keep playing dumb. Senior Ji is a soul chaser. His ability should be sealing spirits. You're a time reverser. Your ability is time regression. I must have been revived thanks to you two saving me." Su Xiaoran chewed on the fatty beef without speaking. Silence essentially meant confirmation. I should have been dead already. That river blooming with red lotuses was the river Styx, with one of you at the bridgehead and the other on the boat. At the bridgehead stands Senior Ji, responsible for guiding the souls back across the bridge. On the boat is Senior Su. You ferry those souls aboard and sail against the current. Su Xiaoran listened silently until I finished, then took a sip of cola. "Everything you said is correct, but there's one problem. For souls we've saved, we quietly provide assistance so they can survive after rebirth. But theoretically, these souls shouldn't recognize us after returning to the living world. Their memories of the river Styx are automatically erased." The two of them stared at me with piercing eyes. "So, why do you remember me?" "How should I know?" Their eyes didn't blink at all. "Me? No, I'm really not playing dumb this time." I raised my hands in surrender. "I'm just an ordinary mortal who had a savior complex in my past life and still gets pushed around in this one. Could you gods please stop asking me about your divine affairs?" Su Xiaoran glanced at Ji Zhao. She doesn't seem to be lying. Ji Zhao, she genuinely doesn't know. "Forget it, it's not important." Su Xiaoran waved her hand. "The bottom line is, we saved you, and most importantly, the most important thing is that I still have this memory." I said, No. Su Xiaoran shook her head. "The most important thing is, you're still a rich woman. Me, I've decided to start a company." The underworld budget won't get approved, so I plan to find a sponsor in the human world, Su Xiaoran said. You seem like a perfect fit, me, //, you guys eat first, I'll take my leave, / 15, Song Yuro left, Ji Zhao grilled meat while leisurely teasing Su Xiaoran, / well, failed to trick her, / Su Xiaoran said calmly, don't worry, she'll come back. Those bound by fate will ultimately return to the cycle of cause and effect. Sure enough, 3 minutes later. Song Yuro lifted the curtain and sat back down again. I didn't say I've agreed to you yet, she said sternly. I'm just asking, what exactly is your business? If I invest, can I get my money back? 1 month later. In the alley, Song Yuro looked at the tiny storefront with utter disdain. A tacky sign was placed at the entrance, reading wishing shop, 10 yen per try. I must be crazy, Song Yuro muttered. I can't believe I'm investing in this thing. Su Xiaoran stood beside her and said kindly. It's alright, that little investment is just a drop in the bucket for you. What do you mean a drop in the bucket? Song Yuro exclaimed in frustration. Are you saying that for just 10 yuan, you'll help someone fulfill a wish? Are the abilities of you time-turners and soul-chasers really that cheap? What are you talking about? Su Xiaoran said, baffled. The 10 yuan is just the price for making a wish. It means the guest can write their wish on a slip of paper for me. As for actually fulfilling the wish, that's a separate fee. By the way, let me introduce, me, the shop manager, Ji Zhao, assistant manager, Song Yuro sneered, a general without an army. Huh, you don't even have a single employee. Su Xiaoran pointed at Song Yuro. You, staff member, Song Yuro. Wait, explain this clearly. Aren't I the investor? Why did I suddenly become a shop assistant? Following behind Jiang Yu was my best friend Tang Xian. The moment she saw Jiang Yu in this state, she couldn't contain her anger. / fine, I'm leaving. Consider this investment as good as throwing meat buns to a dog. / The influential Miss Song was utterly helpless against Su Xiaoran. Fuming, she turned and stormed off. Just as I stepped out of the shop, I bumped into a pale-faced girl. Excuse me, is this a place where wishes come true? The girl asked timidly. Song Yuro froze for a second, then flashed a warm smile. Yes indeed, please come in. Oh no, I really became a shop assistant. After the girl entered, Song Yuro stood outside the store, wiping the sweat from her head in frustration. But, this kind of work, serving deities and witnessing the joys and sorrows of mortal life, doesn't sound too bad after all. Anyway, summer vacation is still long. It's time to welcome new stories. Story 2. Before being pushed off the cliff by Zhou Lin, he told me a secret. All the bullet comments I saw were deliberately fabricated by him for me. It was precisely because I believed the nonsense in those bullet comments that I gave up my fiancé, who was a good match for me in terms of social status, and instead threw myself into Zhou Lin's arms. In the end, he drained my family fortune and pushed me off the cliff. When I opened my eyes again, I was back at the wealthy family's dinner party where I had been drugged. The familiar bullet comments appeared again. The female lead. Don't you ever go looking for your fiancé? That scumbag is having a wild time with a young model. Why not take a look at Zhou Lin behind you? Although he is just a waiter now, he will become the richest man in the country in the future and spoil you rotten. I turned around and met Zhou Lin's affectionate gaze. In this life, I will make every single bullet comment become his death knell. 1. It was so hot. My body felt as if it was being roasted over a fire. I leaned against the wall and moved forward feebly with my hands and feet. It was not until the familiar bullet comments floated past my eyes that I suddenly woke up. I had actually gone back to the day when I was drugged at the party. Miss Wen, are you okay? A concerned male voice rang in my ear, but it made me tremble all over in fright. I turned my head and met those familiar eyes, gentle, worried, as if filled with endless affection. It was Zhou Lin. In an instant, boundless hatred welled up like magma. I had to use all my strength to restrain the urge to strangle him to death. In my previous life, it was precisely because I believed those bullet comments that I gave up my fiancé, who was a good match for me in terms of social status, and threw myself into the arms of Zhou Lin, who was still a waiter at that time. In the end, he drained my family fortune and pushed me off the cliff. It was not until just before I died that Zhou Lin stepped on my head and looked down at me condescendingly, saying, "Didn't you expect it? Those bullet comments were all deliberately fabricated by me for you to see. Women are so easy to deceive, with just a few bullet comments. You really thought you were the female lead in a novel. You're so stupid, you deserve to be killed by me." He sneered sinisterly and suddenly kicked me off the cliff with a single stomp. All that was left in my ears was the howling wind, and the crisp sound of bones breaking. "Miss Wen, you don't look well, let me help you to the lounge." "Okay," Zhou Lin's voice slithered into my eardrums like a snake hissing, instantly pulling me back to reality. There was carefully feigned concern surging in his eyes, but this time, I could clearly see the calculating look hidden deep within. He was waiting for me to be in a state of delirium and let him have his way with me. Miss Wen, your body is so hot, how about, let me help you? His breath brushed against my ear, and his voice was low and slow, as if deliberately trying to awaken the drug's effect in my body. The bullet comments appeared in a timely manner. Female lead, don't resist, this is fate. Zhou Lin will treat you very well. Believe me, you two are a perfect match. Accept him quickly. Zhou Lin is really good in bed and will definitely make you feel ecstatic. My fingernails dug deep into the palm of my hand. In my previous life, it was these bewitching bullet comments that made me fall into the trap step by step. The heat in my body and the coldness in my heart intertwined, making me shiver all over. But Zhou Lin took this as my invitation for sex and became even bolder. His fingertips gently caressed, moving down along my collarbone, and was about to reach into the neckline of my dress. Just then, I tore off the silver hairpin that held up my coiled hair, and stabbed it hard into his arm. Ah! Zhou Lin let out a scream and looked at me in disbelief. I got up and ran towards the main hall of the party, shouting at the top of my lungs, "Call the police, someone is molesting me." 2. While waiting for the police to arrive, Zhou Lin was pinned to the ground by the security guards and could hardly make a sound. But the bullet comments didn't stop for a moment. Oh my god. Is the female lead crazy? This is the future richest man in the country. Your fiancé is having an affair upstairs, but you're hurting the one who truly loves you. Quickly tell the security guards to let him go. Otherwise, you'll have to give your first night to that scumbag fiancé. Every word and sentence was pushing me to give up my fiancé and offer myself to this waiter whom I didn't know at all. To be fair, Zhou Lin was quite good at bluffing people. But he seemed to have overlooked one thing. Could it be that I could only choose one of the two men? The doctor rushed over in a hurry and gave me an antidote injection. The cold injection pierced my skin, and the surging heat in my body finally subsided. In my previous life, I was bewitched by the bullet comments and gave myself to Zhou Lin under his coaxing, but this time, the will to survive and break the situation made me hold on until now. I lifted my eyes coldly and met Zhou Lin's slightly anxious gaze. Obviously, since the bullet comments hadn't worked yet, he was starting to lose his composure. I didn't molest her. Zhou Lin finally couldn't help but speak up in defense, his voice tinged with deliberate grievance. I just saw that Miss Wen wasn't feeling well and came forward to show my concern out of kindness. I didn't expect to be misunderstood. The bullet comments immediately cooperated and flooded the screen with his looks. Does he need to be a molester? It's women who throw themselves at him. The female lead is too sensitive, isn't she? Treating kindness as something worthless. I sneered and gave him a mocking look. Every pervert will defend themselves like this when caught in the act. If you want to explain it to the police. The sound of the police sirens approached from afar, and Zhou Lin's face visibly turned pale, just as the police were about to take him away. Wait a minute. A clear female voice cut through the commotion. 3. I turned around and saw a girl in a pure white dress walking quickly over. I knew this girl. Her name was Anlan. It was she who sponsored Zhou Lin, helping him to come out of the poor mountain village and get admitted to a prestigious university. I heard that when she went to the mountain village to donate supplies, she took a fancy to Zhou Lin at first sight. Since then, she had supported him all the way and cultivated him carefully. She not only covered Zhou Lin's tuition and living expenses but also paved the way for him, giving him the opportunity to mingle in the upper-class social circles. I once asked Zhou Lin what kind of relationship he had with Anlan. Zhou Lin just said casually, "She's my sponsor and has been kind to me." I believed him at that time, but in my previous life, not long after I got together with Zhou Lin, this girl died in a car accident. At that time, I thought it was an accident. Now that I think about it, there's probably more to it than meets the eye. Anlan stood in front of Zhou Lin, like a mother hen protecting her chicks, without any evidence. Can you just frame an innocent person with just your words? She turned to look at the police. I know Zhou Lin, he would never do such a thing. This silly girl was probably just like me in my previous life, whose mind had been bewitched by Zhou Lin's bullet comments. I looked at her angry expression with great interest and slowly took out my phone. Oh, is that so? On the phone screen, it clearly showed the scene of Zhou Lin acting inappropriately towards me in the lounge. Originally, I also wanted to find the footage of Zhou Lin drugging me, but unfortunately, he was cautious and managed to avoid the surveillance cameras, so I couldn't find the evidence of him drugging me. Anlan looked at the surveillance footage, her face as white as a sheet, but even so, she still bit her lip. as if she wanted to defend Zhou Lin. Fortunately, the police didn't give her the chance. Zhou Lin was soon taken away, and Anlan followed, but those annoying bullet comments were still not giving up and were making a final struggle. It's all a misunderstanding. Just a misunderstanding. Female lead, believe us. Zhou Lin just couldn't help himself for a moment, and that's all because he loves you so much. Are you really going to miss the one who truly loves you for the sake of a cheating man? If you don't believe it, go and take a look at Box No. 1 on the upper floor of the banquet hall. Your fiancé probably just finished his affair. I raised an eyebrow. If the bullet comments hadn't mentioned it, I would have almost forgotten. In my previous life, it was in Box No. 1 that I witnessed my fiancé's betrayal with my own eyes. From then on, I completely believed the bullet comments and had no more doubts. My fingertips unconsciously dug into my palm, and I lifted the hem of my dress and walked upstairs. This time, I wanted to see just how flawless the plot Zhou Lin had arranged was. 4. The box was in a mess. The messy clothes were scattered all over the floor, and the air was filled with the smell of alcohol and lust intertwined. GMO was holding the woman in his arms and was sound asleep. The bullet comments immediately flooded the screen like crazy. Look, this is your dear fiancé. Now do you believe that what we said is true? Only Zhou Lin truly loves you. Go and find him quickly. I bit my lower lip so hard that I tasted blood. It was this scene in my previous life that made me completely believe the prophecies in the bullet comments and obey Zhou Lin from then on. But this time, I strode closer and noticed Chimo's dilated pupils and the abnormal flush on his face. His fingers were twitching spasmodically around the woman's waist. This look was exactly the same as mine after I relieved the effect of the drug in my previous life. I understood in an instant. It seemed that Chimo had also been drugged. Luchi. Chimo woke up with a start. When he saw me, he pushed the woman in his arms away in a panic. He fumbled to wrap the quilt tightly around himself, his voice hoarse. Luchi, you have to believe me. I was drugged. Of course I believed him. Because this was a common trick used by Zhou Lin. In my previous life, I was so stupid that I was blinded by anger and didn't notice these details at all. I know, I said calmly, but my fingernails dug deep into my palm. GMO obviously let out a sigh of relief, but the next second, let's cancel our engagement. What? He stared at me in disbelief. I'm the victim, but you did betray me, I sneered. Moreover, memories of my previous life flashed through my mind. How the Qi family had gradually nibbled away at the Wen family's business under the pretext of my faults, and how GMO had watched coldly and even added fuel to the fire. The bullet comments were still flickering non-stop. Female lead, baby, you've finally seen clearly. A man like GMO is not worth it at all. Only Zhou Lin truly loves you. He has been waiting for you for so long. Do you have the heart to make him wait any longer? Think about it. If you had chosen Zhou Lin just now, how happy you would be now. I clenched my fists. How ironic. In my previous life, I believed these lies and ended up dying a miserable death. In this life, I've seen through the truth, but I still have to step into this trap, because I know, only by making Zhou Lin think that his plan has succeeded first can I make him reveal more flaws. I will accompany Zhou Lin to play this game to the end. Luchi. GMO still wanted to explain. I simply laughed, letting him call out behind me. The moment I turned around, a tear rolled down my cheek. It wasn't for GMO, but for myself in my previous life who had been played with and killed. 5. I cancelled my engagement with GMO. This time, the Qi family was in the wrong and had to give up 8 percentage points of the profits as compensation. 8 percentage points. My father was so angry that he smashed the teacup. Is my daughter's marriage only worth that much? I held down his trembling hand and said in a calm voice. I lost my marriage, but I got the money. Isn't that more practical? I think it's quite good. Dad is just feeling sorry for you. My father sighed. Originally, I thought that if you married GMO, in the future he would take over the Qi and Wen companies, and you wouldn't have to worry about the rest of your life. But now, it's not only men who can take over the company. I interrupted him and said seriously, Dad, train me to be your successor. It's only when our own company is in the hands of our own family that we can feel at ease. My father's eyes lit up with surprise. Luchi, do you really mean it? I looked straight into his eyes and nodded solemnly. In the past, I didn't want to get involved in company affairs. I thought that as long as I found a capable man, I could live an easy life. My parents also indulged my temper. They said that they named me Luchi because they hoped that I could live happily without any worries. But the lessons of my previous life made me fully understand. No man can truly be my support. Only when I hold the interests firmly in my own hands can I feel at ease. Very good, very good. My father was so excited that his face was glowing. No problem, my dear daughter. I'll arrange for you to join the company tomorrow. I will teach you everything I know and do my best to train you. However, just a few days after I started working in the company, I ran into an unexpected person. The familiar figure, the hypocritical smile, Zhou Lin. He actually managed to sneak into the company so quickly, and he became an intern in the department I was in charge of. Along with his appearance, there were also those noisy bullet comments. Female lead, look how much Zhou Lin loves you. In order to see you every day, he gave up countless job offers from other companies. Every step he took out of the mountain village was to be worthy of you. How can you have the heart to let down such deep affection? With just a word from you, he would even give his life for you. Give his life. I curled my lips coldly. I don't need him to give me his life. I'll take it myself. Find out how Zhou Lin got out of the police station and how he got into the company. I tapped my fingertips on the table, and a surge of excited fighting spirit welled up in my heart. The secretary soon brought back the news. It was Lan. She not only bailed out Zhou Lin but also stuffed him into the Wen Group. The Yin family was also one of the shareholders of the Wen Group. Although their shareholding was small and they didn't have much decision-making power, but it was still no problem to stuff an intern in. What's more, with Zhou Lin's background of graduating from a prestigious university and being about to graduate, he did meet the requirements. I suddenly thought of that night's party when Zhou Lin worked as a part-time waiter. This work-study opportunity was probably also given to him by Lan. Otherwise, with the strict management of that banquet hall, they wouldn't have hired any temporary workers at all. For Zhou Lin's great cause of climbing up the social ladder, Lan really gave him everything he wanted. Find a way to invite Lan out to meet, but not in my name, I instructed the secretary. One day later, I met Lan at a coffee shop on the outskirts of the city. She had originally made an appointment with other friends. When she saw that it was me, her delicate little face immediately tensed up, and her expression became stiff. Miss Wen, you went around to invite me out. What do you want to say? Her tone was obviously hostile. I smiled slightly, but the smile didn't reach my eyes. Of course I had to go around. I raised my eyes to observe her expression. After all, I want to talk to you about the bullet comments. I have to be on guard against Zhou Lin. Lan's body immediately tensed up. What do you mean? Although she didn't answer directly, her vigilant body language had already given me the answer. Sure enough, Zhou Lin also used the trick of bullet comments on Lan. I said with certainty in my tone, if I'm not mistaken, the reason you trust Zhou Lin so much is because of the bullet comments, right? Lan sat up straight and said seriously, Miss Wen, if you want to hold him accountable for what happened at the dinner party that day, I apologize to you on his behalf, but Zhou Lin really didn't mean to offend. He just wanted to help you and accidentally slipped his hand. You trust him so much. I lowered my eyes and stirred the cooling coffee, shaking my head meaningfully. What did those bullet comments tell you? That you're the female lead and he's the future richest man. That as long as you're willing to support his ambition to rise to the top, he'll spoil you rotten. Lan's eyes widened in shock. You can see them too. Not only can I see them, but in the bullet comments I see, I'm the female lead. How is that possible? Lan's pupils suddenly contracted, like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. I guided her gently. You've been with him for so long. Don't you really think there's something fishy going on? Lan fell into a brief moment of contemplation, frowning slightly as if trying hard to digest what I had said. But in just an instant, she regained her defensive expression. As if I were a villain trying to sow discord. So what? She raised her chin, her voice trembling but her back straight. I know him and I trust him, even without the bullet comments. I will firmly stand by his side. I heard the hidden meaning in her words. Do you mean that you can't see the bullet comments now? Lan's expression flickered with a moment of panic, and she forced herself to defend. It's none of your business. This girl is really innocent. All her thoughts are written on her face, and she can't hide anything at all. Fortunately, she's so innocent, which made me confirm one thing. Zhou Lin's bullet comments can only be designated for one person to see at a time, and they can't be transferred casually. When Zhou Lin used them on me, Lan could no longer see them, I told her. I first saw the bullet comments on the day of the dinner party. After that, haven't you seen the bullet comments again? Lan pursed her lips and fell into thought. I continued, you don't have to rush to reply to me. I have only one request. Don't tell Zhou Lin about our meeting today. It's for your own good. If one day you also find something suspicious about him, you're welcome to come to me again. I stopped at that and got up to leave. After all, I don't know Lan well and can't trust her completely. If she tells Zhou Lin about our conversation, it will undoubtedly bring me trouble. But I can't just watch her be killed by Zhou Lin. Wait a minute. Just before the glass door closed, Lan suddenly caught up. She seemed to want to say something but cautiously swallowed it back. Finally, she softly promised me, "Don't worry, I won't tell him." 7. Zhou Lin had a strategy. After joining the company, he didn't rush to get familiar with me. Instead, he silently built up his presence. Every day, he was the first to arrive and the last to leave, in the office late at night, often only his back, working overtime alone, was left, lonely and stubborn, like a carefully designed silent film. Of course, he wasn't completely silent. There were still bullet comments speaking for him. Female lead, look how hard he's working. In order to be worthy of you, he only sleeps for 3 hours a day and works desperately. Since you misunderstood him that night at the dinner party, he's been breathing carefully, afraid of making you angry again. Don't you feel touched by this restrained and patient love? If it were in my previous life, I might have been moved by this performance. Now I just find it ridiculous. Since he's working so hard to attract my attention, I can't let him fail completely. So, one late night while working overtime, I came to Zhou Lin's desk. "Why haven't you left yet?" Zhou Lin suddenly looked up, looking flattered. His Adam's apple rolled, his eyelashes fluttered slightly, and his expression changed within a few seconds. The bullet comments translated his mental activity for me. "Great, female lead, you've finally noticed him." The male lead is pretending to be calm on the surface, but his heart is about to explode. Who would have thought that the future richest man would actually be a pure love warrior? Zhou Lin regarded the bullet comments as his inner monologue. I raised an eyebrow, pulled up a chair, and sat down beside him. I ordered some late-night snacks. "Let's eat together." Zhou Lin pretended to be shy and asked tentatively, "Miss Wen, aren't you angry anymore?" "Angry about what?" I asked knowingly. "At the dinner party that day, I really didn't mean it. If I offended you in any way, I apologize. I'm sorry." Zhou Lin looked extremely nervous, but through those eyes, I could see the certainty in his heart. He was betting that I had already fully believed the bullet comments. After all, the result of the cheating catch last time perfectly proved the correctness of the bullet comments. So, I went along with his intention. "I'm the one who should apologize. That day, I was really too impulsive and misunderstood you." My voice was soft and gentle, and my fingertips were restlessly rubbing the edge of the lunchbox, as if feeling embarrassed. I quickly glanced at him and then immediately lowered my head, with a thin layer of redness appearing just right on the tips of my ears. "If we don't eat now, the late-night snacks will get cold." "Okay." Zhou Lin smiled shyly, and a hint of pride flashed in his eyes. It had started to rain outside the window at some point. The raindrops meandered down the glass, blurring the light in the office in a hazy and alluring way. The ambiguity gradually spread. The bullet comments began to encourage me to throw myself into his arms. "Female lead, look, his eyes are all red. Do you know how hard he's been holding back? As long as you kiss him now, you can have all the tenderness of this future richest man." Even his breathing is trembling, with such a cute reaction. "Don't you really want something to happen?" They still want to PUA me into kissing him, in their dreams. I lowered my head, letting the flush spread from my cheeks to my neck, looking just like a girl in the first throes of love. But when Zhou Lin reached out to hand me a tissue, I coincidentally tilted my head to avoid his touch. For some plays, stopping just at the right moment is the most alluring. 8. After that late-night snack night, Zhou Lin's offensive obviously escalated. In the elevator lobby in the morning, he would coincidentally run into me. The collar of his white shirt was slightly open, revealing his well-defined collarbone. Some pleasant surprises began to appear on my desk. On Monday, there was a white tulip with morning dew. On Wednesday, it was replaced with a handwritten note and macarons. On Friday, there was a concert ticket under the keyboard. Each gift hit exactly the right spot of my preferences. Obviously he had done his homework. The most wonderful thing was the way he looked at me when we met in the corridor. Those peach blossom eyes would light up first, and then he would restrain himself and lower his eyelashes, suppressing the surging feelings. During the lunch break, through the glass curtain wall, I could always catch the moment when he hurriedly averted his gaze. All these things made me couldn't help but sigh at his excellent acting skills. Of course, I also, as he wished, pretended to be heart-fluttering. In this life, the process of him courting me is much more difficult than in the previous life, but Zhou Lin has been persistent. I think there are probably 2 reasons for this. First, my family is wealthy enough. Among the wealthy families in this city, I'm one of the few only daughters, which makes it convenient for him to take over all my family's wealth. Second, I speculate that the target of his bullet comments can't be changed casually, and he can only designate one person at a time. Otherwise, he would definitely use multiple strategies and court several wealthy girls at once. We still worked overtime until late at night. I was really seriously learning about the company's affairs and made rapid progress in a short period of time. As for Zhou Lin, besides working overtime, I'm afraid he thought more about how to win me over. Gradually, he began to send me home late at night on the pretext of safety. The atmosphere between the two of us became subtle after each journey together. Finally, on this night, after he, acting as the driver, sent me to my doorstep, he suddenly leaned over and his fingers tentatively covered the back of my hand. But we encountered an uninvited guest. "What are you two doing?" GMO walked out from the shadows of the plane trees. His black coat was stained with night dew, and he was holding a half-extinguished cigarette in his hand. The light of the street lamp poured down from above his head, outlining his tightly pursed lips sharply. "Why are you here?" I was a bit surprised. After the engagement was called off, I hadn't contacted Chimo again, but it seemed that he was specifically waiting for me. "I'm waiting for my fiancé to get off work. Is there a problem?" Chimo said matter-of-factly. "Have you lost your memory?" I said with a laugh. "We've already broken off the engagement. It's been so long. How long are you going to keep making a fuss?" Chimo irritably loosened his tie. "I told you, I was drugged that time. Besides, among the men in our circle, which one isn't chased by women who can stay pure? Is it really worth it just for such a trivial matter?" He suddenly softened his tone and reached out to touch my face. "Stop making trouble. The compensation has been given by my father, and I've also been scolded by the old man. You should come back. These days, I've missed you a lot." I was so angry that I laughed and was about to retort when Zhou Lin had already stepped in front of me. "How can you say such things? If you don't cherish her, there will naturally be someone who regards her as a treasure. Who cares about a man like you who's already tainted?" GMO slowly turned his head, his gaze swept over Zhou Lin's whole body as if sizing up a commodity. Finally, it fixed on that inexpensive suit, and a cold snort escaped from his nostrils. "Wen Liqi, is this your new lover? Something that can't be brought to the public eye, I have to say." This sentence made me feel good to hear. Zhou Lin's face instantly turned pale, and his knuckles turned blue from gripping tightly. "Yes, my background isn't as prominent as young Master Chi's, but if Liqi were my fiancé, I'd rather break my hands and feet than let her suffer such grievances." The bullet comments joined in the commotion. "Wow, the male lead's boyfriend power is off the charts. This kind of man is the one worth relying on." Female lead, get together with the male lead quickly. If you miss him, there won't be such a good man again. I just found it ridiculous. In fact, when I first came back through time, I still had some vague hopes for Chimo. Just like in a romantic novel, when the female lead is hurt by one man, it seems that another more excellent man must appear to accompany her like a savior, as if in this way, it can prove that she's worthy of being loved. But the cruel reality tells me, placing hope in men will only bring disappointment again and again. Zhou Lin is bad, and Chimo is a scumbag. Neither of them is any good, but at this moment, these two guys are in front of me, competing to show their so-called deep affection. It's really laughable. Enough, I stopped this farce. GMO, it's over between us. The night wind picked up the fallen leaves and swirled them around our feet. I took the initiative to hold Zhou Lin's hand. When I looked up at him, my eyes were filled with tenderness like moonlight, and I said firmly, "Zhou Lin's family background may not be comparable to the Qi family's, but don't bully a young man because he's poor. I believe he won't be an ordinary person forever." Zhou Lin's pupils suddenly contracted, and his Adam's apple rolled as he swallowed. His expression at this moment was like that of a gambler finally waiting for the moment when the dice cup was opened. That kind of shudder mixed with ecstasy and greed was transmitted from his fingertips all the way to my palm. "Liqi, do you really think so?" I smiled and looked at him. Of course, his fingers trembled, and he suddenly hugged me into his arms. I could smell the remaining cheap perfume on his suit, which fermented with the excitement of success in the night wind. GMO sneered and turned to leave. After taking 3 steps, he turned back and threw down a sentence. "You'll regret being with such a poor man." He was right. In my previous life, when I was pushed off the cliff by Zhou Lin, I really regretted it to the core. But now, I just hugged Zhou Lin back even more tightly and said firmly, "No, I believe choosing him is the most correct decision I've ever made in my life." 9. Zhou Lin and I got together just like that. He perfectly replicated the routine from my previous life. On the surface, he silently gave to me without asking for anything in return. In reality, he used the bullet comments to exaggerate it greatly. Oh my god. The male lead didn't sleep all night just to grab a limited edition doll for the female lead. See the blisters on his hand from the burn? That's from learning to make creme brulee for the female lead. Just now, when the female lead coughed, he immediately took off his coat. He was shivering from the cold but still said he wasn't cold. What a familiar formula. He put on a show of 3 parts, and the bullet comments exaggerated it into 12 parts of deep affection. When he secretly met with Enlon in private, the bullet comments would pop up saying preparing a surprise. Even his perfunctory attitude when he stood me up could be beautified as running all over the city to buy a gift for the female lead. In my previous life, he wove a Truman's World for me with the bullet comments, making me live in a carefully designed script and thinking that I had glimpsed the secret of fate. Those floating words were like transparent silk threads, wrapping around my judgment layer by layer until I could no longer see the truth clearly. And in this life, honey, I want to take you to meet my good friend. Is that okay? I rested my chin in my hand and looked at him, my eyes full of infatuation. I want everyone around me to know how lucky I am to have met such a wonderful boyfriend like you. Zhou Lin's eyes flickered. He knew very well the significance of this invitation. Being able to step into the social circle of the daughter of the Wen family meant being officially included in the social map of the top celebrities. This was much higher than the social circle that Enlon, the daughter of an upstart, could provide. Okay, I'll leave it to you to arrange. Zhou Lin pretended to be doting and ruffled my hair. I leaned into his arms taking the opportunity, hiding the sneer at the corner of my mouth. Zhou Lin still didn't know. The friend I was going to take him to meet was exactly his old acquaintance, Enlon. 10. My friend has always heard me talk about how great my boyfriend is and has urged me many times to let her meet him in person. I took Zhou Lin's arm and walked through the carved archway of the restaurant. Before entering the private room, I suddenly leaned close to his ear and laughed softly. Come to think of it, you two already know each other. To give her a surprise, I deliberately didn't tell her that my boyfriend is you. Hearing this, Zhou Lin's body suddenly tensed up. Which friend are you talking about? As soon as the words fell, as if he had a premonition, he slowly turned his head. He was directly facing Enlan's pale face. The wine glass in her hand clattered to the ground, her pupils constricted violently, and her lips trembled, but no sound came out. Look. This is the friend I mentioned. I happily shook Zhou Lin's stiff arm. Enlon, you're familiar with her, right? The one who helped you out that day at the banquet. Zhou Lin's Adam's apple rolled a few times, and the corner of his mouth twitched into a twisted arc. You too, have you been in touch all this time? His fingertips oozed cold sweat in my palm, and his probing gaze swept back and forth between Enlon and me, as if testing the possibility of being exposed. Zhou Lin's panic at this moment confirmed my suspicion. His special ability has limitations. He can only fabricate those bullet comments to deceive us, but he can't truly have the ability to see everything and spy on our whereabouts. Otherwise, he wouldn't have reached the door of the private room without knowing that the person inside was Enlon. Actually, we weren't familiar before. I tilted my head and showed an innocent smile. Later, I heard that Enlon was your sponsor, and as we talked, we became close friends. I turned my head and affectionately took Enlan's cold hand. I also have to thank you for sponsoring Zhou Lin all those years. That's how I was able to meet such a wonderful boyfriend. Enlon stared fixedly at Zhou Lin. Her lips lost all color, as if all the blood in her body had been drained, but she still asked persistently, she's your girlfriend, so who am I? I promptly changed my expression and showed a look of surprised and bewildered. What do you mean? Are you also Zhou Lin's girlfriend? Facing such a tense situation, Zhou Lin's expression was only flustered for a moment before quickly returning to normal. Enlon, I think you've misunderstood, he said in a slightly apologetic tone. You sponsored me for 6 years and helped me out of the mountain village. I'm very grateful, but I don't like you. If I caused you any misunderstandings before, I'm sorry. No, you didn't say that before. Tears welled up in Enlan's eyes. You clearly said before that. Enough. Perhaps afraid that his lies would be exposed, Zhou Lin interrupted Enlan's words in a hurry and turned to me, saying, Luqi, there are some misunderstandings between Miss Enlon and me. Could you please give me some time so that I can explain it to her alone? To reassure me, the bullet comments also joined in the defense. Enlon is just a paranoid. She's morally blackmailing the male lead just because she sponsored him. The male lead feels like he's being tortured every time he meets her. He's just enduring it to repay her kindness. The male lead may be poor, but he has integrity. Once he becomes the richest man, he won't have to be coerced by such a woman anymore. The female lead should trust the male lead and give him some space to deal with it. I suddenly remembered that in my previous life, I had also seen similar bullet comments. At that time, Enlon heard that Zhou Lin and I were dating and came to ask for an explanation. At that time, Zhou Lin only took 20 minutes to make that stubborn girl leave with red eyes. I didn't know how Zhou Lin explained it to her, but after that, Enlon really stopped bothering me. After a while, I got the news that Anlan had died in a car accident on a winding mountain road, according to the timeline of my previous life. Anlan should still be safe now, but looking at her shaky figure at this moment, I suddenly wasn't sure anymore. Perhaps the fangs of the viper would show earlier than in my memory. Then I'll go back first. You two can talk slowly. I pretended to believe the bullet comments, obediently left, and even thoughtfully closed the door of the private room for them. About an hour later, Zhou Lin came back. There was a smile on his lips, but his eyes were as cold as ice. He reached out and ruffled my hair. It's all explained. It was all a misunderstanding before. From now on, she won't bother us anymore. Really? I looked up at him. Of course. Zhou Lin leaned down close to me. His breath brushed against my ear, and his voice was as soft as a snake hissing. Trust me, Lu Qi. 11. According to the trajectory of my previous life, Anlan died in a car accident a month after she came to the door. I thought that in this life, it should be around the same time, which was enough for me to prepare in advance. But I didn't expect, just a week later, I saw the report of Anlan's death in a car accident on the news. It was still that section of the winding mountain road, and it was still due to a brake failure, but the time was completely different. That section of the winding mountain road was in the suburbs. Usually, Anlan wouldn't go there. What was the reason that made her drive there alone in both her previous and present lives? The answer was obvious. It was Zhou Lin who asked her to meet at the top of the mountain, saying that he wanted to give her a surprise or an explanation. My heart sank heavily, even though I knew he was the murderer. Without evidence, everything was just empty talk. At this moment, the sound of the door lock turning woke me up. It was Zhou Lin who came back. Today, he invited me to his rental house, saying that he would cook for me and show off his skills. He was holding a paper bag with the logo of an internet-famous cake shop in his hand and smiled calmly. I queued up for 2 hours. He held the cake and smiled as he leaned towards me. Want to have a taste? I frowned and turned my face away. Zhou Lin paused for a moment and keenly sensed that my expression wasn't right. What's wrong? Who made my baby unhappy? I directly dropped a bombshell. Did you kill someone outside? Zhou Lin's pupils suddenly constricted, but he was only flustered for a moment before returning to his usual gentle and considerate appearance. Lu Qi, he smiled and shook his head, reaching out to touch my face. What are you talking nonsense about? I avoided his touch and pressed on. You killed Anlan, didn't you? An expression of just the right amount of shock and hurt appeared on his face. She's my sponsor. I'm too grateful to her to do such a thing. How could I? His voice suddenly choked up, as if he was deeply hurt by the sudden accusation. Who did you hear this from? It's ridiculous. My fingertips trembled as I pointed towards the air, and my lips were pale. But, the bullet comments are never wrong. Hearing this, there was finally a crack in Zhou Lin's expression. What bullet comments? I haven't told you this. In fact, since the day of the dinner party, I've been able to see a lot of floating words. At first, I thought it was someone's prank. It wasn't until after you were taken away by the police and what the bullet comments said came true that I realized I had misunderstood you. I took a deep breath, as if I couldn't hold back the trembling in my voice. Later, a lot of things happened, all of which proved that the bullet comments were true. They never lie. I took a step back, trembling all over, and my pupils constricted violently. But now, the bullet comments are telling me that you killed Anlan and you caused this car accident. Zhou Lin's Adam's apple rolled violently 3 times. I could almost see the veins bulging on his forehead as his brain was running at high speed. The next second, the bullet comments in the air suddenly changed. What? The female lead can see the bullet comments we send, but Anlan clearly died in an accident. Did the female lead see it wrong? Zhou Lin tried to muddle through by manipulating the bullet comments, but I ignored them and showed an even more terrified expression. It's so strange. Before, the font of the bullet comments I saw was black, but now it's actually turned blood red. My voice trembled, as if I had seen something extremely terrifying. The blood red bullet comments say that you deliberately tampered with Anlan's car brakes. It's okay to drive on a flat road, but once you get to the complex winding mountain road, it will be extremely dangerous. After that, you asked Anlan to meet you at the top of the mountain, saying that you wanted to give her a surprise and asked her to go alone. Before I could finish speaking, Zhou Lin's expression changed from his initial calmness to stiffness, and fine beads of sweat began to break out on his forehead. He tried his best to maintain his surface calmness, but there was an unmaskable look of panic in his eyes. Don't believe these, it must be someone's prank, he said, pretending to be calm, but I seemed to be possessed and continued to murmur the non-existent blood-red bullet comments. The bullet comments also say that the reason you killed Anlan was that you were afraid she would get in the way of you climbing up the social ladder with me. In fact, you and Anlan were lovers. You were afraid that she would expose this to me, so you took drastic measures against her. I looked at him with a terrified expression and disbelief. No wonder. No wonder Lan reacted that way in the restaurant last time. It turns out, Zhou Lin still didn't give up and tried to use the bullet comments to save the situation. How could that be? Zhou Lin is clearly only in love with the female lead. It's all in Lan's misunderstanding. Zhou Lin has a very upright character. He definitely wouldn't do such a thing. Whose bullet comments are spreading such rumors? This is really hurting Zhou Lin's feelings. He only has you in his heart. Zhou Lin worked hard to fabricate the bullet comments, trying to change my mind, but my performance was as if I couldn't see the bullet comments he fabricated at all. Instead, I continued to talk endlessly about the so-called blood-red bullet comments. The blood-red bullet comments say that all the black bullet comments I saw before were deliberately fabricated by you for me to see. You can control what I see, so as to gain my trust in you. My God, have I been deceived by you all this time? I covered my mouth and said in disbelief, it turns out that the reason Lan trusted you so much was also because of the bullet comments you tailored for her. As I revealed these bloody truths one by one, I finally broke through Zhou Lin's psychological defense. His originally tense body began to tremble, and all the color drained from his face. How could this be? Where did these blood-red bullet comments come from? Is the system malfunctioning? He was so anxious that he accidentally mixed up the words calling the system with the fabricated bullet comments. So, the bullet comments in front of me refreshed like crazy. System, what's going on? When Lu Qi doesn't seem to be able to see the bullet comments I sent with my brainwaves anymore. The bullet comments she's seeing now are blood red. Is the system out of order? When I bound Lan before, this kind of situation never occurred. I stared fixedly at these bullet comments he accidentally sent, filled with disgust, but it wasn't enough. He hadn't completely broken down yet. I suddenly let out a scream and stepped back, as if I saw extremely shocking bullet comments. So, you approached me from the beginning just to kill me and get my inheritance. Zhou Lin's body shuddered violently. No, how could I? His defense was pale and weak, and even his voice was distorted. The blood-red bullet comments told me everything. I mentioned the name of a cliff abroad, which was exactly the place where he pushed me off the cliff in my previous life. You've even chosen the location, haven't you? After we get married and my father hands over the company to you, you'll take me there and make it look like an accidental fall off the cliff. Zhou Lin's breath suddenly stopped. He stared fixedly at me. The face that always wore a gentle smile now showed a ferocious expression without any disguise for the first time. How could you possibly know? How could other bullet comments know? I haven't even taken any action yet. I sensed the danger and turned to run, but Zhou Lin grabbed me back, his palm clasped around my neck like a vice, with such great force that it almost crushed my bones. Since you already know everything, I can't let you live anymore. He no longer cared about pretending. His knuckles pressed into my carotid artery inch by inch. That's right. I killed Lan. I tampered with her car. And you're about to die at my hands too. His voice was hoarse, filled with endless coldness and madness. If only there hadn't been these blood-red bullet comments today, I could have deceived you for a few more years. I was almost successful. You were already completely devoted to me. But you had to discover the truth. To be honest with you, the bullet comments you saw before were fabricated by me. But so what? After you're dead, I can bind someone else, and I can make a comeback. In his arrogant and hysterical narration, my breathing became weaker and weaker. Just as I was about to fall into darkness, bang, the door was suddenly smashed open from the outside, and Lan rushed in with the police. When Zhou Lin saw Lan, his eyes widened in shock. You're not dead. How can you still be alive? The police officers swarmed up, controlled him, and pinned him to the ground. I was finally released and took big gulps of fresh air. Didn't you expect it? I weakly curled the corner of my mouth. Actually, there are no blood-red bullet comments at all. All of this was just to make you admit all your criminal facts yourself. I pointed with my trembling finger at the pinhole camera in the corner. That was something I secretly set up in Zhou Lin's rental house a week ago. Stop struggling. Everything you said and did just now has been recorded by the pinhole camera. Hearing this, Zhou Lin shuddered all over and slumped down like a snake whose spine had been removed. His eyes were unfocused, and his lips moved but no sound came out. The face that always wore a gentle mask now only showed the despair of a cornered man. 12, that's right, and Lan wasn't dead at all. All of this was a carefully arranged play for Zhou Lin by us. Let's go back in time to a week ago, under the pretext of meeting a friend. I took Zhou Lin and met Lan in the restaurant. This meeting was actually a gamble between Lan and me. It was to let her see with her own eyes. When Zhou Lin had to choose between me and her, how much was that heart beautified by the bullet comments really worth? as expected, Zhou Lin chose me on the spot. Although Lan's family background was not bad, compared with the Wen family, it was still far inferior. However, he was afraid that Lan's entanglement would make all his previous efforts go to waste, so he had to appease her first. I asked Lan what exactly Zhou Lin had explained to her in private that day, and Lan told me. He just said that he had his own difficulties, and he couldn't say what those difficulties were specifically. He just asked me to trust him and that he would take responsibility for me. Do you believe him? I asked, and Lan was silent for a moment. If you hadn't come to me, I think I would have believed him. When I could see the bullet comments before, Zhou Lin told me several times that he had his difficulties but never explained the reasons. Whenever I had doubts, the bullet comments would explain it to me, and in the end, the content of the bullet comments was verified by the facts, so I felt more sorry for him and trusted him even more. She paused and then said, but if the bullet comments were really his self-directed and self-acted scheme, then I have no reason to trust him anymore. I agreed with her. No matter how eloquently Zhou Lin spoke, one thing was certain, that was when he had to choose between the two, he gave up on Lan. This was enough to prove that he wasn't as affectionate as she had imagined. Things have come to this, and I admit defeat, and Lan let out a deep sigh, full of self-mockery, but I shook my head and corrected her. And Lan, there's no winning or losing between us. Is it really considered a win to get this man? Then this kind of win is really disappointing. And Lan suddenly fell silent and lowered her head, remaining silent for a long, long time. When she raised her head again, those sad eyes had become extremely calm and determined. You're right. What kind of victory is it to not be abandoned? Making him pay the price is what matters. She looked at me with a determined gaze, like a sharp blade unsheathed. What should we do next? I told Lan that there was a high possibility that Zhou Lin would choose to kill her to silence her and eliminate the root of the trouble. She needed to install pinhole cameras within the scope of her daily activities, especially paying attention to the car's components and the brake system. At the same time, she also needed to play her role well to avoid arousing Zhou Lin's suspicion. Facts have also proved that our prediction was completely correct. When Zhou Lin tampered with Lan's car, we received the alarm immediately. Although he cleverly avoided the driving recorder, the 360-degree pinhole cameras around clearly captured his criminal behavior. After that, Zhou Lin invited Lan to go up the mountain, euphemistically saying that he could answer all her previous doubts and prepare a surprise for her. In fact, in order to completely clear himself of suspicion, he didn't go up the mountain at all that day. He just estimated that Lan was almost there and then called her, lying that he had something urgent to deal with and asked Lan to turn back. In her previous life, Lan had an accident on the way down the slope, but in this life, Lan didn't go up the mountain at all. She just destroyed her car, faked the scene of the car accident, and then used false news to mislead the public's attention. Zhou Lin thought he had everything taken care of and solved his biggest worry, but he didn't know that all his actions were within our prediction. In order to make his criminal facts conclusive, I fabricated the existence of the blood-red bullet comments and revealed his sins from the previous life little by little, forcing Zhou Lin to completely break down and finally admit the criminal facts. Now, the video of Zhou Lin admitting the criminal facts himself, the surveillance video of him tampering with the car, the call recording of him inviting Lan to go up the mountain, many irrefutable evidences are all laid out on the table. His criminal facts are conclusive, and no matter how much he tries to quibble, it can't be shaken. In the end, Zhou Lin was sentenced to 20 years in prison by the court for multiple crimes, including 2 attempted intentional homicides and the destruction of transportation vehicles. 13. On the day Zhou Lin was sentenced, I personally went to the court to witness this moment. The moment his cloudy eyes saw me, they suddenly lit up, and his chapped lips opened and closed silently. According to the court's regulations, he couldn't talk to me, so he started desperately fabricating bullet comments, talking about how good he had been to me before and how deeply he had loved me. Lu Qi, do you remember the cake I learned to make for you? The night you said you were cold, the coat I took off still retained your body temperature. Forgive my momentary confusion, I was just too afraid of losing you. Can you write me a letter of understanding? I will definitely work like a slave for you when I get out. There was a sickly expectation in his eyes, as if he was certain that since he hadn't succeeded yet in this life, I should be grateful to him. But I had actually experienced the destruction of my family and my own violent death in the previous life. How could I possibly forgive him, seeing that I remained expressionless all the time? Those bullet comments gradually became ferocious. Bitch, haven't I given you enough? If it weren't for me, Could you have experienced the feeling of being loved? Just you wait, I still have the bullet comment system. When I conquer someone more powerful than you, I'll kill you. It was so noisy. Fortunately, the judge finally pronounced the sentence. The defendant, Zhou Lin, is convicted of the crime of intentional homicide and the crime of destroying transportation vehicles. After combining the punishments for multiple crimes, he is sentenced to 20 years in prison. The moment the judge struck the gavel, those twisted words in the air dissipated like smoke. All those curses and pleas were gone, until the familiar bullet comments floated past my eyes, and the host's mission failed, and the system binding is released. The host loses the permission to manipulate the bullet comments, and the target person will no longer be able to see the bullet comments. I glanced at Anlan beside me and happened to meet her gaze. I knew that she had heard it too. From now on, Zhou Lin can no longer use the bullet comments to deceive and manipulate anyone. We have finally completely walked out of the huge scam woven by the bullet comments. Walking out of the gate of the court, there was a long-lost, clean and clear world in front of us. There were no floating words, and there was no preset fate. It turned out that real life should be this refreshing. I took a deep breath and stepped forward. The sound of Anlan's footsteps came from my side, brisk and firm. The gate of the court slowly closed behind us, and neither of us looked back.